Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Client list. What is that? It's been years since his death, yet no one will explain why he was traveling with 4 young hobbits. Where were they going? Some type of mountain retreat? At one point, they were said to be passed off to Aragorn, who interviewed Frodo. He said that Aragorn promised them second breakfast, then led them up to Weathertop, where he left them there to be surrounded by 4 tall men in black cloaks. That's Illuminati shit if ever I heard it. We also obtained audio from Rivendell, where Frodo is heard in a circle with the words uttered, "You have my sword, you have my bow, and my ass."
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
That opening was from Alex DeWitt Comedy. Alex DeWitt Comedy, spelt like it sounds. So look him up on TikTok.
Pretty kick-ass, man. You guys should do it dueling Carlson, man.
Yeah, he has me beat. You know what it is? He has the laugh down. The laugh is hard.
He does.
The laugh is really the hardest part of Tucker. Like, the manner of speech is kind of, I feel like I have that down pretty well, right? But he has a very unique laugh.
He does, yeah.
And that guy nailed it. So Alex DeWitt Comedy. Go follow him on TikTok. Support the arts, everybody. Speaking of arts, what do you think of my new sets? New sets tonight.
I love it.
I thought, if I can't be as smart as Max Blumenthal, I should at least, copy his set. Maybe I'll look as smart as Max Blumenthal now. This is kind of his setup here.
Hey, man, you would not be the first person to build a career being a poor imitation of a better model.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, exactly. That's kind of how we got started. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think I just described our show.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's it.
That's our whole thing. It's like we are James Gunn to the Joss Whedon of podcasting.
Right. Yes. That's right. So little needs a little work. I want to do a little bit more with the lighting, so the wall's not as white. But I'll figure that out. This is good. For now, it was a very busy day for me, a very busy night into the day, because I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but around this time last year, I took a brief hiatus for paternity leave because July 27th, 2024 is the day that my youngest son was born, which would make today Augie Weiss's first birthday. And so we had a little birthday party today with the family, and it was great. So shout out to my boy Augie, who was all smiles. And so what a day it was. What a year it has been. So shout out to Augie. I got to dedicate this to, you see, it sucks for Jimmy because Jimmy had a near-miss experience. Jimmy had a near-death experience. So I was going to dedicate this to Jimmy. I was going to dedicate this episode to Jimmy because he almost died. But sorry, it's my son's birthday. I got to dedicate it to my son. So next time. The good news is Jimmy flies a lot, so he might have another near-death experience, so I could devote the episode to him. Yeah, exactly.
So you get some beers in that, Brett?
Yeah, right. He could take beers. He's
what's
has
good
a beer
to do
belly
when
already.
they're that small is you tie them to the helium balloons, you float them around.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you whack them a little bit.
Yeah, he has a beer gut on him. He could probably take some beer ahead of schedule.
He'll probably outgrow that.
Yeah. Yeah, he probably will. My other guys are skinny guys.
Yeah, they're skinny.
Yeah. It runs in the family. So that's those are our pre-show dedications. Do we have anything else? Obviously Q&A tonight. These glasses are too tight on me. They're too tight on my head. That's the other thing. I gotta get them
new?
They're new and they're tight, and when this light shines on me, especially in the summertime, I sweat. So see, I got these zits right here because I sweat on my glasses, and the sweat gets stuck between the rim of the glasses and my skin, and it makes me break out. Yeah.
This is the show, folks.
This is the show. That's what we got for you tonight.
This is the show tonight.
We do have a lot to get to tonight, so why don't we start with Jimmy's near miss? Again, this was going to be, we were going to devote the show to him. Just a bad break. It's my kid's birthday. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, man, there are people who, when they invite you to Bohemian Grove, go to Bohemian Grove. And then there are people who wind up in a near miss in a plane.
Right. You shouldn't have turned them down.
Yeah. Jimmy Dore is the latter. So here he is with Steph right after this happened.
A few minutes ago, we ended up having crazy turbulence on this flight. Like, Jimmy, have you ever had that experience before that much?
It turns out not turbulence. It was the pilot taking an aggressive move because there was another plane coming at us. That's what it was. There's a collision avoidance. Wow.
We're driving home.
You're driving home. Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah. So he posted later on, just now on Southwest Flight 1496, Burbank to Las Vegas, pilot had to dive aggressively to avoid midair collision over Burbank Airport. Myself and plenty of people flew out of their seats and bumped heads on ceiling. A flight attendant needed medical attention. Pilot said his collision warning went off and he needed to avoid plane coming at us. So, of course, there was a lot of reporting on this. So let's take a look at what happened here.
Tonight, a Southwest flight violently dropping hundreds of feet as the pilot tried to avoid a midair collision with a former British fighter jet.
It was chaos. There was screaming. There was just people were frightened.
It happened about 6 minutes after takeoff at Burbank Airport. The plane bound for Las Vegas suddenly dropping 500 feet when the Southwest pilot got a warning from the collision avoidance system.
There was about, I would say, an 8 to 10 second drop of free fall. Never experienced that. It's terrifying. It shakes you to the core.
As the plane leveled off, passengers say the pilot told them what had happened.
2 to 3 minutes later, the pilots got on the intercom and told everybody that they had maneuvered the aircraft to avoid a midair collision.
Passengers say the fasten seatbelt sign was still on, but drink service was just starting.
All that I could physically see was that the flight attendant was injured. It looked to me like that she had a head injury because she had the ice pack on her head for the remainder of the flight.
It comes just days after a Delta regional jet landing at Minot International in North Dakota made a hard turn after spotting a B-52 bomber. The Air Force says that military jet seen here flying over a state fair had its location turned off and was never told about an inbound commercial jet by Minot's air traffic control. And tonight, passengers on board that Burbank flight say they're stunned.
It felt out of your control. It felt very scary. You just didn't know what it was.
Lindsay, it's not clear why that 66-year-old retired fighter jet was in the area or how close it was to that Southwest plane, but 2 flight attendants were injured, and the FAA is now investigating.
I keep saying, they say we don't have enough planes. We got all these museums. I go to these museums. There's planes everywhere. Why don't you put those up?
Not clear exactly. I haven't seen any reporting on why that plane was up in the air. This is a little ironic that this happened with Jimmy. I mean, a little ironic for me, because all of those Boeing incidents were really happening one after the other when I was guest hosting for Jimmy. when I was actually in LA, going back and forth to LA a lot last year. So we were talking about this a lot because he was flying a lot. I was flying a lot. After a certain point, I asked him to only book me on non-Boeing planes. So we had to start doing it that way. So, you know, a lot more has happened since then, because at that time, the worry was Boeing. The worry now is the entire infrastructure of the aviation system, not to mention the people who are running it. So they mentioned that PBS flight. I'm sorry, I'm going to show a PBS clip. They mentioned that previous flight a few days before this happened. I think this was July 22nd, like right before this happened.
Is investigating what led to a heart-stopping moment in the North Dakota skies this weekend. A Delta Airlines regional jet had to make a surprise hard turn on Friday to avoid colliding with a U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber. The pilot later apologized to passengers.
Sorry about the aggressive maneuver. It caught me by surprise. This is not normal at all. I don't know why they didn't give us a heads up.
The passenger flight was SkyWest Flight 3788, flying from Minnesota to North Dakota. The B-52 bomber was airborne to perform a flyover at the North Dakota State Fair. Both SkyWest and the Air Force have said they are also investigating the incident. For his actions, the pilot of the SkyWest flight was met with applause from the passengers, and the plane landed safely in Minot.
I bet. Same thing happened with Jimmy's flight. You know you're going to clap when you hit the ground after something like that. And then this is just today, speaking of our friends at Boeing, a wheel caught on fire and the passengers had to be evacuated. Yeah. Can you imagine? Good Lord. So listen, man, if I had been on that flight, there's probably a better than even chance I would have pissed myself if I were Jimmy. And he could very well have pissed himself. I haven't asked him. A man doesn't ask another man that. He might have pissed himself.
Personal question.
I'd say 83% chance I would have pissed myself if I had been on a flight that went down like that and people started flying out of the seats. But you have just a perfect storm of elements, I think, creating incidents like this. You have the Boeing factor. That's its own thing. You have DOJ having rifled through the federal government. And while they deny it, we've done a lot of reporting on this. It looks like they fired a lot of support people that they should not have fired, that interfere with the job of the maintenance people and the people who are supposed to be doing final checks. And I can't put this on this administration, but we have a long-standing problem with having enough air traffic controllers. That was a problem they inherited. I think Elon didn't make that any better. Sending out letters to people to justify their jobs, not exactly the best retention strategy when you have a shortage of air traffic controllers. This is the current Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, talking about that problem.
The controllers, and it's going to take time. We have to train them up. But I think what's key is we've offered a bonus to air traffic controllers who are eligible to retire. We're going to pay them 20% bonus on their salary to stay longer, don't retire. And so as we bring more air traffic controllers in and keep the older experienced controllers, we're going to be able to make up that difference. But it does take time. It's going to take us months, if not years, to make up the difference.
This is, they call that the WGNM initiative. White guys named Mike. That's mostly who they're finding is taking the bonus to not retire. But in the big, beautiful bill, there was a $12.5 billion set aside for overhaul of the air traffic control system, which is terrifying. I mean, I think a lot of people did not really know how bad it is until Newark Airport kept getting shut down. Even though we've covered this a lot, that was really what made us look into, because there wasn't a lot of reporting on it, how bad the infrastructure is. You're talking floppy disks. You're talking just completely antiquated systems. You're talking some airports where they still use binoculars to check on things. Just absolutely insane. So that is one possibly good thing in the big beautiful bill. I'm sure if I know America, I'm sure 12.5 billion, if you dig into it, is a drop in the bucket to what we need. But the real question, if you're a member of the flying public now, is, well, I got to fly now, not in like 5 years when they have a functioning 21st century air traffic control system that's properly staffed. Now, can you blame any individual incident on specific things like this? Not necessarily, but when you look at every single week almost, it seems like there's some kind of near miss like this. Clearly, this combination of all these elements of poor infrastructure, understaffing, Boeing is making it very very risky to fly these days. Like I was gonna take a train to St. Louis till I found out it was gonna take 30 hours. I'm gonna chance it, but yeah, so another reason to get out of this country.
Yeah,
if you like to travel, you might not want to travel in the United States.
Wasn't there a poll that said like a considerable percentage of people are afraid to fly?
A majority
now.
now.
Yeah. I mean, how could you blame them? So, yeah, I mean, over a 400-foot drop, that is a massive drop. That's a massive drop. Like home plate to center field in a Major League Baseball stadium is about 400 feet. So you put that on a vertical plane and imagine just nosediving 400 feet. That is a long ways. That's not a minor maneuver. That is really scary stuff. And
dude, it's scary.
Dangerous.
Turbulence is scary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very dangerous too. I mean, thank God there doesn't seem to be severe life-threatening injuries, because maybe as a function of the seatbelt light still being on. Because I imagine if you were not seatbelted, you'd have hit your head right on the ceiling.
From what, one of the passengers who was interviewed said the seatbelt light was still on at that point. So that's why it's only really the stewardesses who were injured, because they were up.
Yeah, I mean, if people were not seatbelted at that point, that could have been really, really terrible. So yeah. Glad Jimmy and Steph are okay, and good call on driving back. The Vegas to LA drive. What's that, about a 4.5 hour drive? Probably something like that.
I mean, but really, I think what's going to make the difference is I understand that now he is going to be going to Bohemian Grove next week. He called them.
Well, yeah.
So his brakes will probably be okay.
Hey, look, now he has an excuse to join Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. He has an
what do you
excuse
expect from the guy?
Right. He has an excuse to become one of them now, because hey, I mean, look, he paid his dues, right? So you can't blame him. So there you go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. You can only hold out for so long. Ken Texican, thanks for the $5. Do dissidents, more bang for the free speech buck on. Oh, thank you. On Rumble. I see what you did there, because you gave us the Rumble rant too. By the way, shout out to Jake, who's in the booth tonight. Thanks, Jake, for being here. Appreciate that. More bang for the free speech buck on Rumble. Free Palestine. See? Ken Texican split his donations. Very, very clever. We have not had a joint super chat that starts on YouTube and ends on Rumble. That's very, very clever. I like that. Creativity points for Ken Texican. Hillary Hitton says James Corbett dropped a fantastic doc on YouTube today called How BlackRock Conquered the World, which is must view for the DD dirtbags. Corbett's great. Also, fuck Larry Fink. Thank you, Hillary Hinton. Appreciate that very much. Speaking of documentaries, we are just 3.5 weeks out from production on the Uhuru documentary.
Yeah.
We are going to be there last week of August. And so we will have content from the road that week. So that'll be a modified streaming schedule, but that is pretty exciting stuff. Can't wait. Eric Rousseau, wonder why no ice raids at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. Lots of crazy alien-looking people, I bet. Good one.
Cute.
And 8 I.M., thanks for the $10. Free Palestine. Indeed. Scorpionic Sag, is your son named after the Roman Emperor Augustus? No, we just were, we were just taking suggestions, and one of my wife's coworkers recommended August, and we're like, you know what, that sounds good. Augie's a nice name. Like, who doesn't like an Augie? It's a very affable name. It's a friendly name. Like Teddy. How do you not like a guy named Teddy? right? Augie, not like a guy named Augie. John Smith.
Very old school, man. It's very old school.
Yes, it is. It is old school. Anton Hassan became a YouTube member. Thank you, Anton. Appreciate that very much. John Smith said, Jimmy read the room. Not today, please. Thank you, John. Quinn Petch, thanks for the $1 super sticker. Appreciate that very much. All right, we'll move right on along here. Donald Trump was miles and miles away today.
All right, so between presidencies, between stints in the White House, this is in 2023, he announced the start of a new golf venture in Scotland, the McLeod Course, to be built at Trump International Scotland in Aberdeenshire in honor of his late mother, Marianne McLeod, who was from Scotland. So he has a lot of ties to that land. I'm sure he was greeted very warmly. Oh, no, he wasn't. Good. This headline made a lot of waves. Convicted U.S. felon to arrive in Scotland.
Very disrespectful.
Very disrespectful. But hey, charmer that he is, he wasted no time in winning them over.
Well, I say two things to Europe. Stop the windmills. You're ruining your countries. I really mean it.
I really mean it.
You fly over and you see these windmills all over the place, ruining your beautiful fields and valleys and killing your birds, and if they're stuck in the ocean, ruining your oceans.
Killing your birds.
Stop the windmills. And I mean, there's a couple of things I could say. But
piles and piles of dead birds around each windmill.
Together. You're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. And we, as you know, last month we had nobody entering our country. Nobody. Shut it down. And we took out a lot of bad people that got there with Biden. Biden was a total stiff. And what he allowed to happen, but you're allowing it to happen to your countries. And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe, many countries in Europe. Some people, some leaders have not let it happen. And they're not getting the proper credit they should. I could name them to you right now, but I'm not going to embarrass the other ones.
You just said they don't get enough credit, and why don't you name them?
This immigration is killing Europe. And the other thing, stop the windmills, killing the beauty of your countries. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mixes it up a little bit with the windmills.
No windmills, no immigration. Haggis, you might want to rethink that as well.
Yeah. Disgusting.
It's very disgusting when people hear about it. They don't want to visit.
Yeah. It's killing your numbers. It's killing your numbers.
Why would I want to visit people who eat something so disgusting, so sick? But yeah, he got protested pretty hard. Scotland is already great. Protesters troll Trump on his golfing trip. Some fun signs. You were shite in Home Alone 2. Best friends forever with him and Epstein and him and Ghislaine. We'll get into that later. Now, hey, Scottish people, man, you can't blame us. We're not Scottish. I don't think most people know what a jobby is in Scottish slang. Says go home, you big orange jobby.
Yeah, I don't know what a jobby is.
I had to look that up. You don't know what that is, right?
No.
Scottish slang for shite.
Oh.
A wee beige jobby floating there smiling at you. As soon as I did that, I'm like, there's going to be like 80 million comments from Scottish people who take exception to that accent. But at least I tried, damn it. At least I tried. And yeah, the big Trump baby floats. So there were protests all over Scotland. A lot of Scottish people are asking why they have to pay for this asshole's visit. So here is a little news report on it.
There was no thank you in return on the streets of Edinburgh and Aberdeen today, a so-called festival of resistance against the president's visit.
I think he's going to wreck the world. We need to stop him somehow.
Absolutely raging that we're paying for it. He wants to come and see his business is fine. Let him pay for the security. Let him pay for the policing. See absolutely no reason why we should pay 1 penny for that orange walloper.
These protesters don't want anything to do with Trump. But the visit of the world's most powerful man is a chance for governments to get to work. In his first 6 months in office, Trump has made more than 60 trips to his golf courses. And so if you want to do business with the US, you have to pop along to the tee. Hence, the president of the EU Commission is here tomorrow, while Sir Keir Starmer makes his way on Monday, with Trump saying a UK-US trade deal was basically done.
I think it's more of a celebration than a workout. It's a great deal for both, and we're going to have a meeting on other things other than the deal. The deal is concluded.
If the deal is done, for many MPs in Parliament and out on the streets of Scotland, they want the issue of Gaza front and centre when the Prime Minister sits down with the President. But that will be a difficult discussion, given this was Trump's response to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
I think it's terrible what happened with Hamas. They tapped everybody along, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what response Israel has to that. But it's getting to be that time.
As Trump continues to take a break on the Scottish coast, he knows the winds of news are still at work.
As they used to say in the old Miller Lite commercials, it's genocide time.
Right.
As they say, it's that time.
Now, he did try the haggis. This was heard from the bathroom at his golf course.
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. If I push it any harder, the whole thing will blow.
So hopefully he got out of there okay. One recent poll found 71% of people in Scotland have an unfavorable opinion of Trump, compared to 57% of people in the United Kingdom overall. Scotland is one of 4 countries, along with England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, that comprise the UK. Trump's mother, Mary Ann MacLeod, was born and raised on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland's Outer Hebrides Islands. Her first language was Scottish Gaelic. She left at age 18 for New York, where she married Trump's father, had 5 children, and helped him keep blacks out of their properties. Among the it doesn't say that. Among the protesters gathered.
I was about to say, no wonder they got defunded.
Among the protesters gathered in Edinburgh was a distant relative of the American president, Janet MacLeod Trotter, who held a sign that read, "MacLeod's against Trump." She said Trump was misusing his heritage. Quote, "A lot of MacLeods are very upset with the way he's conducting all sorts of international and national issues," she said. MacLeod Trotter said members of the MacLeod clan were ashamed to see their family name associated with a new golf course in Aberdeenshire. Trump is expected to inaugurate the new course this weekend in honor of his mother. Quote, "He doesn't do anything to help the people of Lewis, where his mother came from," MacLeod Trotter said. "He just comes over to buy up golf courses and line his own pockets." Are you saying Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about anyone other than himself? Shocker. Shocker. So not a very warm welcome in his mother's native land there. He was supposed to be meeting with Ursula von der Leyen. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, van der Leyen. Yeah.
Van der Leyen, the head of the EU today, and Keir Starmer tomorrow. We are getting to the deadline for the trade deals to be finalized. He says they're finalized. Looks like he's just talking out of his ass. I don't think anything's been finalized. Europe is holding a nuclear option that they have exactly to deter this kind of threat, which would basically cut off American imports, services, and such. It probably won't get to that if we know Taco, but not being very well received by the Scottish people.
Yeah, we're going to get more into the Keir Starmer angle later in the show, because Keir Starmer really caught a lot of much-deserved flack for his sudden expression of concern for the famine.
Oh, yeah, it's
in
going
Gaza.
On. Not with Trump. Trump hasn't caught that.
No, not yet. Not yet. But so much so that Corbyn's new party experienced a massive surge in registration on its first days of launching. And so on top of that, now Starmer has to deal with Trump coming to visit. I'm sure that's not going to help his numbers much at all. But I mean, look, it's nothing Nothing too surprising. The chuds were going on about some, anti-immigrant marches that took place in Scotland. They seemed pretty small. They seemed very insignificant. They seemed to have very, very poor
71%
attendance.
disapproval.
Yeah. I mean, those numbers don't lie, and it's not a surprise. Didn't somebody ask him if you went to Scotland to get away from the Epstein, the Epstein case or something like that?
Yeah, on the Maxwell story, I'm going to get into it a little bit, but yeah, it's only you people who keep bringing this up.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
only you people.
No one cares. No one else cares. Yeah.
Nope.
Nothing to see there, right? Kuznetsky Bassane says DD is the barometer of our times. Well, thank you. That's a nice compliment. Appreciate that. Abiding says, forgiving Anna Kasparian's Russiagate Barbie cancel princess phase leaves me uncertain whether I'm magnanimous or just indulgent. Thank you, Abiding. I'll tell you right now, and I'm not ashamed to say it, my estimation of Boeing as a company just fucking plummeted. Yeah, there you go. Bold statement from Abiding. Appreciate that. Quick on the uptake there, Abiding. Eric Cusel, so you're telling me that Wonderboy Pete Buttigieg didn't fix the problem. That's right.
No, he did not.
The China Shell. Oh, really? PBS, Russell? No apologies needed. That's right. We give you a double header there, China Shell. PBS and NPR. Yes. Tommy D71, thanks for the $5. I wouldn't put it past them to try and take Jimmy out in a plane crash. They have done this before with Korean Airlines, KAL007, back in the 80s to kill Larry McDonald. Oh, interesting. All right, so we got to tell Jimmy no tour dates in Korea. That's the lesson from that. Yes.
I don't think he was planning
Next
that.
Time. As I was watching the member stream and Keaton's shelf fell, my bookshelf fell apart on the air during our post game. A particular Cumtown bit instantly came to mind, where a particular word causes buildings to collapse when spoken. Interesting, China Shell. I have not seen that bit. Dedamont, thanks for the $3. Forcing my 80-year-old mom to watch your show. She is a big Klobuchar fan.
We have her
Klobuchar
later
coming
right?
up. Klobuchar is coming up a little bit later in the show.
She won't be by the end of this.
Vito P says, my grandson's birthday is on July 23rd, so happy birthdays to both. Cancer sucks, you guys rock, and a girl rock. Yes, well, happy birthday to your grandson. Happy belated. Thank you, Vito. Appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very much. Let's see here. You know what kills the birds? The large U.S. skyscrapers. In the words of the great Nick Cruz, shut the fuck up. Thank you. For a minute, I thought Jobby meant jabroni. Thank you, Goo81. Sorry.
I never heard that, man. They never used it in Train Spotting.
Yeah. Wow, look at this big one. $200. Wow.
Holy shit.
Let's get a cowbell for a Hummer TLS. Russ and Keaton, you guys have a great show. Thank you for your stance and continued coverage on Gaza. Well, that's a very kind donation. Thank you very much for that. We really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. We're going to do some Gaza coverage right now, actually. So every once in a while, things hit a tipping point in Gaza in terms of coverage and opinion. And, there's word now that this is entering a stage 5 famine, which is the most severe phase of famine that there could be in Gaza. That assessment was made back in April. So I'm really not sure why all of a sudden, 2 days ago, everyone was talking about Gaza. But you know what? I will not complain because we should be talking about it a lot more than we do, as much as we try. And so this was essentially trending, and just advance warning, folks, some of these images are upsetting. Nothing graphic, nothing violent like that, but very upsetting for quite obvious reasons here. So Barry Malone tweets out, this is one of those images you instantly know will appear in history books of the future, and people will wonder how we allowed this to happen. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Another baby has died of forced famine in Gaza. 6-month-old Zainab Abu Haleb has died at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis due to severe malnutrition. Just absolutely horrific. In my Al Jazeera report, shocking scenes from Gaza reveal children ravaged by famine and malnutrition, with relentless hunger and thirst striking displaced families as the Israeli blockade continues to crush what remains of life in the Strip. These were posted yesterday. The Quds News Network reports a 10-year-old Palestinian girl, Nour Abu Salah, with a deformed rib cage and a pale face, died of malnutrition this morning, caused by the famine imposed by the Israeli occupation on the war-torn Gaza Strip. So Glenn Greenwald interviewed mass starvation expert Alex DeWall, who warned that humanitarian crisis in Gaza is the most intense, severe, and minutely engineered act of deliberate starvation since the Second World War. We'll take a quick look at this.
Remarkable and unique about the what we're seeing in Gaza today. It's not the largest in terms of the numbers. Those in Ethiopia and Sudan and indeed in Yemen have been larger. But it's the most intense, the most severe, and the most sort of minutely engineered. There is no other case since World War II that I can think of where you have a people being subjected to this degree of starvation, and literally just a few miles away, there are aid givers with the resources, with the expertise, with the plans, with everything worked out, which at the flick of a switch could actually deliver a very comprehensive package of aid. It wouldn't solve the problem, but it would be an infinitely lot better than what the people of Gaza are facing today. I haven't seen that in my career.
So like I said, this is what this guy studies, and he says this is the worst of its kind, in that sense at least, since World War II, in the sense that it's the most deliberate, the most surgical, the most insidious.
I mean, we know from Daryl Cooper, even in World War II, it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was an accident.
Yeah, so I'd like to see Daryl Cooper challenge him on that point, actually. That's a very good point.
Mhm.
But, you know, Greenwald does a lot of great work on Israel-Palestine, and so it's not a big surprise that he was on it and got that interview in the can, and I encourage you guys to watch the whole thing. But CNN now is even talking about the conditions in Gaza. So Furkan Gasukara says, when you see extremely Zionist CNN is literally cooking Israel so hard for straight 4 minutes, you know that the situation is far worse than what you know. So let's take a look at a bit of this CNN segment.
Feeling the effects of the starvation themselves. Our team wakes up every morning just like everyone else, wondering where they're going to get their next meal. Some of the things we've heard mothers say to us that their children are asking if there's food in heaven, if that would be better. One team member talked about seeing a girl filling up water at a water tank right next to a sewage area. So standing in knee-deep sewage, trying to get clean water. We visit families and say everyone in the family has infections, scars, sicknesses, all that from lack of clean water, and on top of systems that are people that are depleted from lack of food.
Because we know that dozens and dozens of humanitarian groups are warning that doctors, journalists, aid workers are going hungry alongside what's going on in Gaza right now. And I know your team is having a tough time coping as well.
Yes, for sure. They're like everybody else. The little food that is available, that the March blockade that the Israelis put in also affected commercial goods. The little food that is available is extraordinarily expensive. Our team reported that a sack of flour was going for $480 in the marketplace. So it's just a tremendously dire situation.
UNICEF says that 80%, this is UNICEF, 80% of those who have died of starvation are children in Gaza. And now the enclave is on the brink of running out of specialized food that's needed to save these kids. What can aid groups like yours do with so little food and supplies on hand, at least right now?
Yeah, right now we are providing water and other services, but this is very solvable. It's man-made and it's solvable. We need a ceasefire. We need Israel. We need a resumption of the UN food distribution points and the UN aid distribution system, and we need unfettered access to get food in to serve people. At this point, when people are dying of deaths, this is a long process, and it's a weeks and months buildup. So you go from long-term nutrition deficit to severe malnutrition ultimately death. At this point, people need more than food. They need malnutrition treatment. They need therapeutic foods. They need medical care. We need to go in with complete solutions to stop this from really tipping into a mass death event.
As you know, Jada, Israel said.
And by the way, we're going to play a little bit more of this. I'm not going to play the whole thing. As we're going to see in a future segment, many doctors are assessing that it's already too late. You've already passed the tipping point. You're already past the point where especially young children are going to have permanent and severe health complications from having been starved in this way. It affects your nervous system. It affects your actual growth and your mental development. So I fear that tipping point has already come and gone.
Says it stopped the previous aid distribution system because it claims Hamas was stealing so much of that food. What do you know about that?
We have seen no evidence of that, and there was a report today that a USAID investigation going back to 2023 saw no widespread evidence of that. But even if that were the case, the way to prevent that, the way to make food aid less of a commodity or less of a hot ticket to be stolen is to flood the zone and make food and supplies widely available.
Exactly. And it wasn't just USAID, which we will get into briefly in a few minutes, but this is a piece that the New York Times ran. According to the Israeli military officials, say no proof Hamas routinely stole UN aid. Just think about that accusation for a moment. It doesn't even begin to pass the smell test. So there are 25,000 Hamas combatants. Gaza has a population of roughly 2 million, was 2.2 at the start of this. We assume a couple 100,000 have been killed. So how is it even possible? How is it even possible for 25,000 people to steal 2 million people's worth of food? That's not possible. The only way that's remotely possible is if you're not letting anywhere near enough food in. So either way, it's Israel's fault. The only way 25,000 people can steal enough food to deprive a population of 2 million food is if you're not sending in nearly enough food. But of course, we don't have to even indulge in that hypothetical because report after report after report says, of course, that the allegation itself is nonsense. Who saw that one coming? For nearly 2 years, Israel has accused Hamas of stealing aid provided by the United Nations and other international organizations. The government has used that claim as its main rationale for restricting food from entering Gaza. But the Israeli military never found proof that the Palestinian militant group had systematically stolen aid from the United Nations, the biggest supplier of emergency assistance to Gaza for most of the war. According to two senior Israeli military officials and 2 other Israelis involved in the matter. In fact, the Israeli military officials said the UN aid delivery system, which Israel derided and undermined, was largely effective in providing food to Gaza's desperate and hungry population. Now, with hunger at crisis levels in the territory, Israel is coming under increased international pressure over its conduct of the war in Gaza and the humanitarian suffering it has brought. Doctors in the territory say that an increasing number of their patients are suffering from and dying of starvation. More than 100 aid agencies, and rights groups warned this past week of mass starvation and implored Israel to lift restrictions on humanitarian assistance. The European Union and at least 28 governments, including Israeli allies like Britain, France, and Canada, issued a joint statement condemning Israel's drip feeding of aid to Gaza's 2 million Palestinian residents. So here's the excerpt from that statement by the UK government. We condemn the drip feeding of aid and the inhumane killing of civilians, including children seeking to meet their most basic needs of water and food. It is horrifying that over 800 Palestinians have been killed while seeking aid. Israel has largely brushed off the criticism. David Mencer, a government spokesman, said this week that there was, quote, no famine caused by Israel. Instead, he blamed Hamas and poor coordination by the United Nations for any food shortages. On Saturday night, however, the Israeli military announced that it would revive the practice of dropping aid from airplanes and make it easier for aid convoys to move through Gaza along designated humanitarian corridors, quote unquote. The announcement did not detail how either mechanism would work or how they would differ from prior approaches. Israel already allows aid convoys to travel along designated routes through Gaza, but aid agencies say they are badly coordinated, reducing their effectiveness. So here is a report by UK-based ITV News, which gets a little more on the ground in Gaza right now.
A white bundle carried in a father's arms. A baby called Zainab wrapped by her mother, not in a swaddle, but a burial shroud.
My 5-month-old daughter died of malnutrition due to a lack of baby formula, the closure of the crossing and the ban on the entry of baby formula. With my daughter's death, many will follow. Their names are on a list that no one looks at.
Ezra is so malnourished her body was unable to produce milk enough to breastfeed her daughter. Zainab weighed more at birth than she did in death.
There is no substitute instead of milk to be given for them. So they are more prone for malnutrition.
Tonight, Israel's military released pictures of 7 pallets of aid they said would be dropped into Gaza. They deny there's starvation there. The UK has announced it will help with airdrops, as they did last year. But a senior UN official has warned they will not reverse the deepening starvation. They are expensive, inefficient, and can even kill starving civilians. Israel also said they'd put humanitarian corridors in place so UN convoys can safely deliver food and medicine, but charities still have safety fears.
Sadly, we've also seen previously that even when humanitarian organizations like Oxfam and other actors are trying to coordinate, well, they're still being targeted.
As it is, trying to collect basic supplies is incredibly dangerous. Outside a morgue in Gaza City, families grieve those who went to fetch aid last night but were killed. Thousands today made the same journey, chancing death for a chance at life. According to the Hamas-run health ministry, 85 children have died of malnutrition-related causes in Gaza in the past 3 weeks. Born into a war zone, lives ended without having truly begun.
Just devastating, obviously. Now, you have, in response to this, you have most high-profile people with, like, a reputation to maintain are trying to, you know, somehow rehabilitate their public image by expressing concern for the Palestinians at this point. We're going to do a whole segment about that later on in the stream. The only people who you see actually making excuses for this are losers you've never heard of, like this guy here, who says, "I'm still confused that people are sharing pictures of a mother holding her skeletal, emaciated child and not noticing that the mother doesn't even have drawn cheeks. I'm glad the mother has enough food, but it clearly presents a problem for the narrative." This is the most recent photo of this nature that I'm puzzled by, which is another angle of the same mother and child that we saw at the beginning of the segment, to which the Hasbara Buster says the obvious: malnutrition affects children more rapidly and visibly than adults due to their developmental needs. Severe acute malnutrition in children leads to visible wasting, while adults may not show the same degree of emaciation in the short term. Mystery solved. Yeah, you could tell the people who think that they're onto something by noticing that the adults are not as emaciated as the children. You could tell an incel by that comment. Somebody who has absolutely zero idea how reproduction and child rearing works. But there are a lot of them. And like I said, these are the lowest of the low. These aren't even like pieces of shit. These are the, you know, shit that's caked onto the bottom of the barrel that you have to scrape off.
These are
or
the
power wash out.
dingleberries.
Yes, these are the dingleberries. Like, seriously, that's your spokesperson for Famine commenting that this woman looks fairly well fed. So Katie Halper posted that same photo that we started the segment with, and this genius here says, "Hi Katie, here is his healthy weight brother. Why didn't you show him or address why the mother is well fed? Strange. Using a poor dying cancer patient to smear Israel as though there is a famine is bad juju," says the Mossad, satirical and awesome, especially when everyone else in these videos looks well fed. And if you look at the date on that tweet, It was March 2nd, 2024. So this has been a talking point of some of the lowest of the low for a long time. They've been saying, well, why do the adults look well fed and the children are starving? Again, just extraordinarily stupid, but it's not working, of course. It's not working. The Atlantic is posting headlines like this. Food aid in Gaza has become a horror. The Guardian, we faced hunger before, but never like this. Skeletal children fill hospital wards as starvation grips Gaza. Even the BBC, which is scandalously pro-Israel, as we've covered quite thoroughly these past few weeks. Airdropping aid is an act of desperation that won't end the hunger in Gaza. And, of course, the Reuters report here, exclusive USAID analysis, found no evidence of massive Hamas theft of Gaza aid, referencing what the woman from the Mercy Group said on CNN, to which Eli Lake replied. Now, Eli Lake, the only high-profile person who would say a thing like this. The reason Hamas doesn't steal from UNRWA is because Hamas is UNRWA. Same reason the Corleone family didn't steal from Genco Olive Oil Company. So he's the only one with a public reputation to maintain who thought it would be a good idea to open his fat fucking mouth repeating debunked stories that have now been proven false in multiple outlets, or at least the allegation has been proven to have no merit whatsoever. So he's saying the reason Hamas doesn't steal from the UN is because the UN is Hamas. And I must restate, the initial allegation that Israel made was that 12 UNRWA members were combatants.
Right.
UNRWA employs 30,000 people. 12 out of 30,000. Israel then had to downgrade that allegation to 5. So 5 out of 30,000 people. You do the math, that's less than 0.1%. I mean, that's nothing. That is like statistically zero. That was the allegation. So Eli Lake is the only person I could find with like a legitimate public following who is defending this. Most people I see now who have any kind of reputation to maintain are trying to act like they hadn't egged this on for 2 years. Talking about Barry Weiss, Hillary Clinton, Hakeem Jeffries. We'll get to that later in the show. That's a segment in and of itself. But obviously something struck a nerve this past weekend. It's very strange. I don't know what exactly it was. I mean, there had been a blockade, a 3-month-long blockade before, where you saw guys like Piers Morgan come out and basically bend the knee to Mehdi Hassan on the air, essentially admitting that, yes, this was a genocide. So I don't know why this weekend we saw all at once, this flood of outcry over Gaza. Obviously, I welcome it. Obviously, we'll take it. But starvation is something that they can't make the human shields argument about. I think that's really what it's about. You know, the bombings, you have people say, well, what are you going to do? It's urban warfare, right? It's a densely populated area. With starvation, you're very clearly depriving civilians of what they need to live. So maybe that's it. I don't know why. It's a mystery to me. I don't know if you have any ideas of why it hit all at once this week. They've been at phase 5 famine for a while now. That assessment is not new. But for whatever reason, Friday night into Saturday, generated enough outcry for Israel to allow the aid droppings in and open up the UN corridors, which, as we could see, all of the reporting says that's woefully insufficient. It's probably too late for anything to help. But we saw a lot of posting about it this weekend. It really came to a head.
It didn't just start. I mean, as far as this particular issue goes, but we've been seeing really since October 7th, this very slow, gradual movement towards the acknowledgement of this as a genocide. It's been glacially slow, and that's how we got here, to the point that it's really too late to fix. I mean, of course, you can ameliorate it. Of course, we want to do everything we can. But from reports, what is it, 85% of the population now is in a state that is permanently physically damaging from malnutrition, 85%. Marcus Aurelius famously said, you know a thing by what it does. When you look at the whole pattern of what Israel has done, forget about what they say about why they're doing what they do. Oh, it's Hamas. Oh, UNRWA. This is what you do if you don't want the population to be saved and you want to throw up roadblocks to genocide the population.
Right.
And you think you'll just be able to blame it on Hamas.
Right.
There's no other explanation for the things they've done. Because you're not even just talking about UNRWA, as crazy as that is. You're talking about killing aid workers, very high profile aid workers, World Central Kitchen aid workers. They've done this repeatedly. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you, if you actually don't want to kill civilians, everything you do would be the exact opposite of what Israel has done.
Right, of course. Yep.
They are used to being able to slaughter with impunity. They did it for 3/4 of a century. Why would they expect accountability now? Why would they expect the media to get curious about their claims now? I see even now, I see Zionists. Yeah, I mean, it's not all bottom feeders. I mean, a lot of them, like Barry Weiss, who have a future to think about, are kind of toning down. But you do have some of these kind of, Noah Tishby types who don't give a fuck, who have some fairly large accounts. I saw, and this is very typical Israeli spin, I saw a Zionist account post the pictures of the airdrops saying, what other country do you know
yes, I
being
saw that.
victimized by terrorists that would feed them? And hey, they have gotten away with that shit for 76 years, man. The hardcore Zionists will buy that. Pallywood, I'll tell you this is all fake. A lot of them are shutting up now because they are starting to fear for their futures, for the consequences of very publicly supporting this. But most of them still believe it. And in the end, it is what I have been saying. The Israelis are taking the gamble that they're going to be able to pull a wounded knee. And yes, one day they can make a nice documentary about the Palestinians, but then we have the land. We have like America. We have the land. You can feel bad later, write a book, very nice book for Palestine. That is what they're gambling on. And I don't think it works that way in the modern world. Some people think I'm too optimistic. I don't think Israel is going to exist as the state that it is in 10 years. I really think 5, to go the outside 10. I think the world's condemnation is going to be too great. And I also think that the power the United States has is very close to its end. And as the center of gravity moves to the BRICS countries, they're not going to play this shit with Israel. It's going to be a different world.
Yes, I mean, we are essentially their only friend left who has signaled absolute subservience to them. That's not to say that, and that is not to exonerate our Western allies like the UK, like Germany, right? I'm not saying that to let them off the hook for anything. But we are the only major country that has not, at least for a moment, condemned them. That at least not for a moment has said, this is too far, this has to stop right now. We never did that. Donald Trump obviously never did that. Joe Biden, we know, never did that. That reporting came out with drop site. Joe Biden never even asked Netanyahu for a ceasefire. Every other major country, it seems, at least their leadership feels a need to signal disapproval. And like I say, that is not to let them off the hook for complicity, because they are, many of them, most of our Western allies obviously are complicit in this to an extent. But when you see guys like Keir Starmer feel a need to come out and condemn this, when you see a government like France, you recognize Palestinian statehood, you're seeing momentum in every other country but this one. And that is quite damning. That is quite the indictment of our country. No other way to look at it, I think. All right. Matrix, thanks for the $4.99, says Sphincter Knucklebuster. Thank you for that. Virtuoso says, Keaton, I came to send my condolences to your bookshelf. I know that old piece of shit bookshelf was in its last day of retirement, 7/24. Never forget. Yeah, they're actually fairly new. I got them like, I don't know, a year ago. I put a lot on them, I guess. John Olmstead, thanks for the $5. Any advice on joining mutual aid groups in my area? Any reliable websites to locate some advice on starting my own? Tired of being sad. Time to organize. Well, you got to let me know where you're from, John. I don't know where you're from. Are you asking location specific? Because I would point you in a direction if I knew. John Olmstead also says, happy birthday to your son, Keaton. Love hearing his first rousing speeches in the background sometimes. Yes, real barn burners. Yes, he can go on a tear every now and then. Okay. Where we go here? Ken Texican says, how do you not love the name Augie, especially Augie Myers, founding member of the Texas Tornadoes and the Sir Douglas Quintet? The kid's bound to be a musician. Thanks, Ken Texican. Donald J. Quixote de la America. Thank you. Yes, there you go with the windmills. I get it, Eric. Thank you for that. Furrow Queen says, if I hear nothing else for the next few hours, I'm over the moon at hearing Russell say jobby. I howled laughing. Also, I agree with the windmills. They are shite. I just love you guys in the chat. Well, thank you, Furrow Queen. Love you too. Appreciate that very much. Luis Dela Cruz says, Walloper and jobby. Love it. I'm so using these. Love you, Scotland. If it's not Scottish, it's crap. Thank you, Luis de la Cruz. Appreciate that. Fugazi fan, thanks for the $20. That's kind of you. Says, please cover the sale of Israeli war bonds. Irish central bank financing genocide. Government refuses to stop it. See ontheditch.com for great investigative journalism. Happy birthday, baby Weiss. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Ernest Dowson says, don't tell the easily offended to turn away. I stand on street corners and shove those starving baby pics in their face till those oversensitive motherfuckers vomit. Good on you. Appreciate that.
The worst Zionist I know is a harp player who plays Ren fairs. And
really?
I know they got canceled from one of the Irish gigs. And I'm sure it's for that reason. I'm sure they looked at our social media and were like, fuck you, you Zionist cunt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're not ruining our festival with your fucking stinky Zionist ass.
Yeah. Could be. Over the Top says, just say it. Israel doesn't have a right to exist. Well, states don't have a right to exist. People have a right to exist. States don't have a right to exist. States have an obligation to abide by international law, which they are not.
Not even all the people.
Yeah. Brad Gilbert, congrats, you two. If IDF8200 has found your chat room, there you go. Let's see. Sammy, thanks for the $4.99, says, sickos, children have less body fat and require more nutrition for development than already full-grown adults. I thought that was common sense. Yeah, obviously. That's pretty obvious common sense. All right. Let's move right on along here. Okay, so as Phase 5 famine persists in Gaza, the Freedom Flotilla dispatched the Handala, which is named after a Palestinian cartoon, interestingly enough. And they had set sail for Gaza, notably joined by Amazon labor union organizer Chris Smalls. So they announced this almost a week ago on the 21st. Amazon labor union leader Chris Smalls is on the Handala, the 37th ship to challenge Israel's illegal siege on Gaza. Amazon has invested billions in intelligence like the Nimbus project used for the surveillance and targeting of Palestinians. So here is a video that they put out. Now, it's going to be a little awkward because the music is copyright blocked. So if we play the sound here, not only will they claim it, but they will take the stream down. So I will narrate this and then I'll remove the music from the video.
Yeah, listen, activists, helpful hint. You want your shit to get out there, right? Make sure you're not laying copyrighted music tracks behind your videos.
Right, because then we can't show it on YouTube. It still gets out there on X and TikTok, which are probably bigger, but YouTube's still pretty big. It's still pretty important. So we'll remove the music and cut it into the clip. But for now, I will kind of awkwardly read along. So Chris Smalls says here, Dear President Trump and the U.S. government, we are 6 of the 7 U.S. citizens aboard the Freedom Flotilla Coalition Handala an unarmed civilian vessel carrying humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people in Gaza with food, medicine, and baby formula for the children who are deliberately being starved. As a U.S. and Israeli citizen, I am exercising my right, our moral duty, to respond when our government enables atrocities. The Israeli blockade is illegal. It is not a security measure. It is a tool of collective punishment and ethnic cleansing and genocide. We're counting on you, Trump. While U.S. citizens struggle to survive, our tax dollars are going towards Israel's endless genocide. Protect your legacy today. Stop enabling Israel and ensure our safe passage. We urge the U.S. government to stop funding and shielding Israel's crimes. We also call on U.S. media to stop repeating government talking points and start reporting the truth that Israel has killed and maimed tens of thousands of Palestinian children and is now deliberately starving babies to death. And the world is watching in silence. Israel is threatening to attack us. We are not the threat. The threat is a world where killing children is normalized, or starving civilians is accepted. We're denying an entire people their human rights as justified, and those who act in the name of humanity are attacked, jailed, or killed. If anything happens to us, it'll be... Oh, sorry. He talks too fast. The walking Jew talks too fast here. This is Jacob Berger here.
As soon as you got to the Jew, man.
If anything happens to us, it'll be on the hands of those who are armed, funded, or politically protected the apartheid regime doing the killing. We are acting with conscience. It's time our government did the same. From the U.S. citizens aboard the Freedom Flotilla ship, Handala, there we go. So that is the word from the crew. So you get to meet some of the crew there who are on board, 21 people in total. Chris Smalls tweets out on Thursday, if Israel illegally kidnaps us again, I will immediately begin my hunger strike. In captivity, they can give their sandwiches and water to the starving people of Gaza. Yipenge, hope I'm saying that right, China Shill, you'll be the first to correct me if I'm wrong about that, posts this video here. So they were, of course, intercepted at sea. And he posts this video here. The Israeli military had a message to the Handala Freedom Flotilla, whoever that is, had a message to back them. So this is the human rights lawyer who was on board the ship. She was featured in that original sort of trailer video that we say. So here's a fascinating conversation between the lawyer aboard the ship and the Israeli military.
What's
warning
her nationality?
them to turn around. I'm not sure. I don't know what her nationality is. She was, where is she? Maybe I could find her name here. I think I can. Yeah, here she is. Okay, so her name is Huwaida Araf. There we go. So let's take a look at this video.
If you do not change your course, the IDF will be forced to take all necessary measures with the legal blockade in accordance with international law and prevent your vessel from entering the restricted area. You will be held responsible for the consequences of your actions, and your vessel may be subject to confiscation. You bear full responsibility for your actions and your consequences.
You bear full responsibility for your actions and your consequences. See, they can't even talk. They're like stupid. What does that even mean? You bear full responsibility for your actions and your consequences.
Israeli Navy, this is a civilian vessel, Handala. Let me give you a lesson in international law. Any blockade that deliberately starves a civilian population is a violation of international law. It is not only that, it is a war crime. You have no legal authority to enforce an unlawful blockade, and as such, you have no authority to use force to enforce an unlawful blockade. Therefore, we demand that you stand down. You are responsible for the well-being of every civilian on board this vessel. As an occupying power in Gaza, you are responsible for the health and well-being of the civilian population there. Not only have you disregarded that obligation, but you are actively exterminating the people. You have engineered a famine. You are deliberately starving civilians and children before the eyes of the world. Our vessel does not constitute any threat to you. We carry only humanitarian aid. And therefore, you have no authority to intercept or otherwise attack our vessel. We demand again that you stand down.
So everything she says there is obviously true, but they did not stand down. So Savvy Sabs tweets the video here. The IDF just raided the Handala. Chris Smalls announced that if captured, he would go on a hunger strike. Please follow Freedom Flotilla for updates. So she posted this video of the raiding of the vessel. I sped this up so we could kind of watch the key moments here. But there you could see them on board. The IDF obviously boarded the ship, made them sit hand to hand while they took them off and apprehended them. We will get some audio of this later on in the segment, but here you could just get a sense of things once the IDF boarded the vessel, and then we could see some video of them being taken off. They streamed this live on YouTube. The feed was streamed live on YouTube so that people could follow in real time, which was a smart move, of course. And there they are. There's one of the cameras. There they are being taken, looks like, off of the vessel and taken into custody, where as of this evening, they remain. I'm not sure if anything broke since we went on the air. I'm assuming not, but we will obviously keep everybody posted on those details. Just like Greta Thunberg released a video after she was detained, which was obviously recorded in advance in anticipation of being detained. Here is Chris Smalls' SOS that dropped on the Freedom Flotilla socials.
Smalls from the United States. If you are seeing this video, we have been intercepted at sea and have been kidnapped by the Israeli occupation forces or forces of the country complicit in Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. I appeal to my comrades, friends, family, to everyone to put pressure on the U.S. government to demand my release and the release of my comrades as soon as possible. Thank you.
And like I said, as of this stream, that is where we stand. So CNN reports Israel intercepts a Gaza-bound aid ship, Handala. Israeli forces intercepted the Handala, a Gaza-bound ship carrying aid and activists, within 70 nautical miles of its intended destination on Saturday night. Quote, the occupation has disabled our cameras and all communication has been lost, a spokesperson for the Freedom Flotilla Coalition told CNN in a message. Israel's foreign ministry confirmed in a statement on X that the Israeli Navy has stopped the vessel Navarne from illegally entering the maritime zone of the coast of Gaza, using the Handala's original name. The vessel is safely making its way to the shores of Israel. All passengers are safe, the statement continued. Unauthorized attempts to breach the blockade are dangerous, unlawful, and this is the money quote, undermine ongoing humanitarian efforts. Yeah. On Thursday, a State Department spokesperson called the activist aid ship a selfie flotilla.
Yeah, that's their shtick.
Yeah, that's their thing. They're just out there grifting for likes and clicks, right? Dismissing the endeavor as a stunt. The latest selfie flotilla should end the stunts, the spokesperson said. The real story is the serious people who put their lives on the line to get food and aid to the people of Gaza without it falling into the hands of terrorists. So they were talking about the UN.
They mean the Israelis?
No, they're talking about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, who have killed over 800 Palestinians while seeking aid. The spokesperson added that the State Department has no higher priority than the safety and security of U.S. citizens and referred to the government of Israel for more information. So Yipeng tweets this again. So here's some audio from the raid, from the moment that they were raided. I love these people so much. The crew on board the Handala Freedom Flotilla were chanting and singing together just minutes before their abduction by the Israeli forces. They are the best of humanity. We are all Handala. So let's take a look at this video.
We are Handala.
We are Handala.
The mighty, mighty Handala.
The mighty, mighty Handala.
Going to Gaza.
Going to Gaza.
Feed the children.
To feed the children.
Everywhere we go.
Everywhere we go.
People wanna know.
People wanna know. Who we are.
So we tell them.
So
So just inspiring stuff there. That's when they realized that they were in the sights of the IDF. And yeah, that is just a beautiful expression of solidarity there. And that is where we leave off. They are being detained. Chris Smalls has promised to go on a hunger strike. And we obviously want the best for Chris. That is someone we certainly cannot afford to lose, guys like Chris Smalls. So, you know, hearts go out to all of these guys. Just incredibly brave, obviously, just like those aboard the Conscience ship, which was struck outside of Malta. And then, obviously, that same crew made their way to Gaza, where Greta and the rest of that crew were detained, and now this is the third such effort in a pretty short period of time. And so God bless everybody on board that vessel there. Just really inspiring stuff.
Yeah, it takes an incredible amount of courage to get on one of these boats, because Israel's not a normal country.
No.
It is a lawless country with no accountability. If they blow that ship out of the water, God forbid, who's gonna hold them accountable?
Yeah.
Not the United States.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah, you killed our citizens. You know what? We're going to send you a letter.
Right.
It's going to be
Like,
very
what
sternly
would we
worded.
do at the
Nothing
end of the
would
day?
happen to them.
Right.
Nothing would happen to them. They could very easily say they went into a militarized zone. They were mistaken for a Hamas ship. Like, they'll say any bullshit. Like, you're really taking your life in your hands. They have killed Western aid workers. Like, your Westernness is not gonna protect you from the IDF. They do not give a shit. Every time one of these flotillas go out, the people on them are showing amazing bravery, man. It's not, you don't know how that's going to end with these people.
No, it's amazing bravery, and that's why they say over and over again, they make a point to express on camera over and over again that they're unarmed and that this is a humanitarian mission. They pose no threats. But at the end of the day, yeah, you have to ask yourself, what at the end of the day would America do to punish them? Nothing. Nothing. If they haven't punished them so far, there's nothing they can't do.
They're committing a genocide.
Yeah, and there's nothing they wouldn't do. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So we will obviously follow up on this. As it stands right now, they are in custody since last night. So we will obviously follow this story very, very closely throughout the week. Goo81 says there are protests in Middle East and Europe against Egypt's embassy, saying the blood is on ISIS's hands and that he should open gates to Rafah. This is supposed re-entry is to save face for Arab leaders. Interesting. Thank you for that. Ken G. In medicine, we often talk about refeeding syndrome in people who are malnourished. If you need to feed, you need to feed slowly with dietitian consultation, or potassium levels can drop dangerously low. Food not enough. Thank you for that, Kevin. Appreciate that. Barry Weiss should be arrested in the ICC for calling the IDF on X to assassinate Rifat al-Arir. Thank you, Goo81.
Well, they need her at CBS, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Will images of starvation cause more anger at Israel or anti-Semitism? Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Israel's collection of dick pics of Macron's wife are no longer effective. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that very much. Eric Rousseau says Sean Penn will be the new Rambo. Rambo does Gaza. Thank you for that, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go over to the YouTube side here. Brad Gilbert says Plan A failed, Plan B, test Freedom City on Gaza. Jessica May, thanks for the $4.99. Please watch the Charlie Kirk and Tucker interview. It's an eye-opener. One of my fave statements, healthcare is selfish, oozed with racism. He hasn't changed. Interesting. You know, I saw a piece of that that I considered covering. It wasn't that part, but we did not get to it. Thank you for that, Jessica.
Which interview?
The Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson one.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Stephen Donziger in Lancet Journal says Kuznetsky Basane via leak cams redacted tonight. Direct and indirect deaths in Gaza are now 434,000. Yeah, I saw a Donziger headline. I have to look into that article, actually. But thank you for that. Andy Gardner, I dedicate this chump change to your son. Long live King Augie. I'd give more, but I live in the U.S. Don't let your son make my mistakes. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that very much. All right, let's move right on along.
Danny boy, we hardly knew ya. So Dan Bongino, to catch you all up, has gone on quite a journey over the last couple of years. Let's take a look.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. Outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Well, that's quite a turnaround. Now, there was a lot of reporting, a lot of behind-the-scenes reporting, claiming that after they came out and said they weren't going to release any more files, that Bongino had a meltdown, that he was thinking about resigning from the FBI. He kind of disappeared, which lent some credibility to that. Kash Patel put out a very bend-the-knee kind of a tweet about his love of the dear leader's cock in his ass. Bongino didn't do that, so a lot of people thought he was probably going to resign. Now, in this article from the Wall Street Journal, whose main subject was breaking that Trump was told that he was in the Epstein file, also had a section about Bondi and Bongino. A little bit of that. Patel, the FBI director, and his deputy, Dan Bongino, had been in favor of releasing more documents, people familiar with their efforts said. Bongino has told colleagues that his association with the administration's decision to keep the files private has eroded his credibility among the base of support that fueled his rise as a successful podcaster and media personality on the right, according to a senior administration official. Bongino didn't respond to requests for comment. On July 9th, after ABC News reached out to the White House about Bondi's briefing to the president, Bongino and Bondi clashed in a meeting in which Bondi alleged that Bongino secretly provided information to the media to damage her reputation, people familiar with the meeting said. Bongino, in turn, exploded about Bondi, his face red, and called her a liar, a senior administration official said. Now, according to reports, what he said is, this gig was supposed to make me more money later as a podcaster, not less. Not
right,
less.
Exactly, yeah.
He's very upset about what this has done to his brand. So now he just dropped this very cryptic tweet yesterday. During my tenure here as the deputy director of the FBI, I have repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. It is a priority for us. But what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. We are going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book and in accordance with the law. We are going to get the answers we all deserve. As with any investigation, I cannot predict where it will end, but I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at truth. Not my truth or your truth, but the truth. Okay, not a postmodernist then. God bless America and all those who defend her. Respectfully, Dan. Now, this got some interesting responses. Alex Jones said, "Thank God, because I can't hold off my audience much longer. I'm trying to dance on both sides of this line and keep Elon from cutting off my money supply. Do you know how much they sued me for?" So it says, "Do what must be done." Mike Benz, who I've been telling folks for a long time is a fucking sheepdogging op. "Thank you. We all see you fighting on the inside. I think your stand earlier this month made a difference on the admin."
Oh, really? What difference might that have been? Like, what do you mean? What difference?
This is what I'm saying. And people take him seriously. It's very easy to be taken seriously in this like right populist conspiracy space. All you have to do apparently is say deep state a lot, mention the Clintons, and you're good.
You're good.
You're good. I mean, it's so obvious that Mike Benz is a sheepdog for Trump and the people around Trump. It looks like it galvanized action and also went a long way toward making millions of people on the outside feel hurt. Well, okay, man. I'm sorry, man. I know a lot of people who take Mike Benz seriously. You should probably reconsider. What's his motive for saying something like that? Does that at all align with reality, or does it look like he's working for somebody?
Yeah.
Come on. The Last True Roman, never heard of this guy until like a week ago. All of a sudden he's everywhere. This one's really funny. Director Bongino, thank you. There will no doubt be thousands of basement dwellers under this post criticizing you for the Epstein files debacle. No, I think you've got that reversed. There will be thousands of basement dwellers who accept this without asking any questions.
Right.
They are socially isolated individuals, or as I call them, my followers, who have and most likely never will achieved anything in their lives. We support you, American flag. But I would say the one who won Simp of the Week was probably Matt Von Swole. I got chills reading this. I hope in time those who have committed crimes against the American people are held accountable, and the things you've learned are made public at the proper time, so we can all learn the corruption that has been plaguing America. Truth greater than everything. Now, okay, this drops right after Tulsi went on a look over here, folks. Look over here, folks. Not at Epstein. Not at Epstein. Russiagate. Obama. Remember how much you hated Obama? So Tulsi just did this whole thing to distract from the Epstein files. I'm not commenting on the validity of Russiagate. We both were on the anti-Russiagate side at the time. We remain so, but it was pretty obvious what the timing was intended to do. My prediction, I'm going to make a prediction right here. This Dan Bongino tweet, he got his mind right for whatever reason, whatever they threatened him with, whatever they told him, he got his mind right. I think he was pissed. I think he knows that this Epstein thing is a cover-up. I think it really infuriated him, what it did to his brand, what it did to his career. Was he morally outraged? I don't know. I don't know him personally. Obviously, he was. I believe the reporting that he was angry. But whatever they told him, for whatever reason, he's decided to play ball. This is a prelude to the mother of all distractions from Epstein. We don't know what it is, but the Russiagate thing fell flat, other than a few journalists who were nursing a grudge about how they were treated during Russiagate. Most people just really don't give a fuck at this point. It's a long time ago. Everybody knew it was bullshit. Now you're just revealing the details of the bullshit. But anyone with any sense already knew Russiagate was nonsense. So it's only making a splash with like a few journalists who are still mad about what happened 4 or 5 years ago to them. And podcast people like Alex Jones, who desperately need to get off this Epstein thing, have been jumping on it. but it hasn't worked with the rank and file MAGA base. They keep coming back with, what about the Epstein files? What about the Epstein files? What about the Epstein files? So they're going to come up with something big, or what they think is big. Why else would you have Bongino tweet something like that? It's certainly not going to be, yes, I found the videos of Donald Trump having sex with underage girls. It's not going to be that. You know, it's not going to be that. Bongino writes something like that, puts it out in public. What's the purpose of it? It is to set you up for something that's supposed to be huge. This is all about nuking Epstein off the front pages. Whatever he winds up revealing, that's the intention.
Perhaps. I mean, I think that's a sound theory. We'll have to obviously wait and see what happens. But I do think you're correct in that he was upset at how that was handled. He strikes me as the kind of guy, and like I said, I don't know him any better than anybody else watching knows him. I assume this show is not big amongst his family. But he strikes me as a guy who just kind of naively went in there, maybe thinking that this actually was a mission to root out some nefarious actors within the quote-unquote deep state. He strikes me as a fairly credulous guy in that way. Like I said, that's just my hunch. Once I don't think he expected it to go this way. And the fact that it went this way so quickly, really, I think, did surprise him and enrage him. Because, look, if he got a sense that this is the direction it was going in, he could have moseyed out the door a year or 2 years in. Like, if they had just kicked the can down the road on the Epstein thing, right? If they had just said, yeah, we're working on it, it's a lot, we'll get to it when we get to it, whatever, stall. At that point, he could have, from inside the FBI, made the determination himself. You know what? This is never going to happen. This is going to be more a liability to me. This is just going to hinder whatever career outside of government I want to continue to pursue when this is all over. So you know what? I'm just going to
Rumble says I can get my old job back.
Yeah, exactly, right? But the fact that they came out and sent that memo, they're just really they jumped the gun on this whole issue. And just 6 months into the job, you got this memo coming out, nothing to see about Epstein. Yeah, I really think that shocked him, and it probably did anger him. In terms of his statement, yeah, I mean, that is either just feeling like you have to say something because you've been radio silent and you just say, I'll say something like this to buy time, or yeah, it is a piece of foreshadowing as to what the next bright shiny object they're going to try and dangle in front of you to get you to look away from Epstein. Because yeah, I mean, you're right, the Russiagate thing just did not work. That was a dog that would not hunt. It just doesn't have Russiagate does not occupy the space in people's mind that it did.
Not anymore.
5 years ago. And by the way, your base, who's most pissed off about the Epstein thing, your base always knew Russiagate was nonsense. It's not a revelation to them.
Right. And they're not obsessed with Barack Obama and the Clintons the way they were, partly because anybody with two eyes can see they don't have the power and relevance that they once did.
Right. You beat them. That's why you're the president.
You beat them.
Right.
Exactly. That's why. That's a big part of why this does not have any cultural power. I mean, Barack Obama could not make himself less relevant. I think it was Michael Tracy who tweeted this out. I could be wrong. Somebody tweeted out, been waiting for Barack Obama to make a statement about the starvation in Gaza. He dropped the clip about him talking about how much he learned from his gay professor.
Yeah, that was Max who tweeted that out. Yep. And oddly enough, Obama did issue a statement today. I added that at the last minute before we went on. So maybe
he finally did.
Maybe Max shamed him into it. Yeah. Israel will suddenly let aid in tainted with something to finish everyone off. That is a sinister thought. Get up, King. Kim and G, the issue is that the future people will forget what Israel did, just as they forget all genocide done by Canada, U.S., etc. Craig Maccabee made a legal argument a while back that media organizations can be held liable for enabling a genocide. So much of this is CYAIM. Oh, thank you, John. Appreciate that. EO Shush says the power of cognitive dissonance. Jews for 75 years preaching against genocide, then commit one. MAGA for 10 years preaching we need to stop the pedos, then defend one. Yes, indeed. Good observation. Pirate Justin, thanks for the $10. Oops, sorry, wait. Yes, thanks for the $10. Damn it, I was just gonna drink and fuck around, but you, my favorite liberal Jews, just had to have a show. Thank you, Pirate Justin. Appreciate that. John N says knew an adult named Augie as a kid in the 70s, but not since. A great name, love from Florida. Thank you, John. Appreciate that very much. Let's see. With all the smoke, says John Trevina, coming from Israel, Gaza, Epstein 2016 interference, IDF, U.S. Popo training, BB saying 9/11 was good for Israel. Is Israel Kaiser Sose? Yeah, good question, John. Thank you. Marvin Vargas, have Ken O'Keefe, peace activist on 2010 Gaza Flotilla, 9 killed. That's right. That's right. Okay, let's move right on along. Ghislaine Maxwell is next.
All right, so Todd Blanche tweeted this out this week. Justice demands courage. For the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, what do you know? At Pam Bondi's direction, I've contacted her counsel. I intend to meet with her soon. No one is above the law, and no lead is off limits. Well, that sounds pretty good, right? That sounds pretty good. They're taking this very seriously. So who's Todd Blanche? Ghislaine Maxwell met privately with Todd Blanche, the man who used to be Trump's personal defense attorney in New York. Trump appointed him deputy attorney general in March. Yes, you read that right. Trump made his own criminal defense lawyer the second highest official at the DOJ. How that wasn't front page news everywhere is baffling. And now, Blanche, Trump's own lawyer, is the only person allowed to meet with Maxwell. No FBI agents, no independent observers, just Trump's fixer standing alone with one of the most notorious figures in recent memory. And this from Dosey Dotes on another thread. More interesting and corrupt is the fact that Todd Blanche and Maxwell's attorney David Marcus are old friends. Trump picked Blanche for this job to execute a cover-up. Blanche is working with his friend, Maxwell's attorney, to make this all go away. Most corrupt deal ever. So Trump was asked about the interviews that Ghislaine, these were ongoing when he was asked. This is what he had to say.
Well, I don't know about the meeting. I know it's taking place, and he's a fantastic man. He's a great attorney, and people should really focus on how well the country's doing, or they should focus on the fact that Barack Hussein Obama led a coup, or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about, because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about, and they should speak about them, because they don't talk about them, they talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy.
Yeah, he is on his talking points, man. Every time they bring this up to him now, it's Obama had a coup.
Right.
And what about Larry Summers and Bill Clinton?
Right.
That's it. He is on his talking points. So this whole thing, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. They, in unprecedented fashion, had a private interview and wouldn't let anybody else be there for him. Why not? If there's nothing to hide, why would you go to this extraordinary length to make sure nobody hears what she has to say outside of Trump's personal lawyer, who's been made the number 2 at the Department of Justice?
Right. He's now the source for this.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. If this happened under Biden, fucking MAGA would be screaming to high heaven how bad this stinks. Come on. Ghislaine Maxwell's meetings with Justice Department shrouded in secrecy. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche completed 9 hours of meetings over 2 days with Ghislaine Maxwell on Friday, but made no public statements about what she said or the next steps in the Justice Department's much criticized Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Former prosecutors said it was highly unusual and potentially unprecedented for the department's number 2 official to personally interview a witness. Secrecy in a criminal investigation is normal, but the prosecutors involved in the case would typically be included in questioning. I've never heard of a deputy attorney general doing anything like this before, said a former senior Justice Department official who spoke on condition of anonymity. Victims of Epstein and Maxwell, who was convicted in 2021 of recruiting and grooming multiple teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late financier, questioned the lack of transparency as well. Jack Scarola, a lawyer representing roughly 20 Epstein victims, said he asked to attend the Maxwell interviews, but was not included. Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, is a top Florida criminal defense lawyer and a friend of Blanche's. Blanche appeared on Marcus's podcast in 2024, where the host praised Blanche's legal skills. After Friday's meeting with Blanche and Maxwell, Marcus told reporters that the Deputy Attorney General did an amazing job and asked Maxwell thorough questions. Have you ever heard of anything like this, where the attorney representing the accused is praising the Department of Justice for the manner in which they interviewed his client and their friends, and he's been on his podcast? I mean, you could hang a sign around these people's necks saying the fix is in, and you could barely be more obvious that this is a setup. She was asked maybe about 100 different people, said Marcus, who did not disclose which individuals Maxwell was questioned about. She answered questions about everybody, and she didn't hold anything back, he said. They asked about every possible thing you could imagine, everything. A senior administration official who spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak publicly said that Maxwell was granted limited immunity by the Justice Department to answer questions about the Epstein case. Granting limited immunity is common in criminal cases and allows defendants to provide information without fear that it will be used against them in court. Mimi Rocha, a former federal prosecutor in New York, said she believes the recent firing of Maureen Comey, a lead prosecutor in the Maxwell case, and the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, was an effort to give Trump appointees full control of the Maxwell case, limit transparency, and silence dissent. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Right after they announced the closing of the Epstein files, they fired her. We weren't able to it looked like it was related to trying to put that to bed while deflecting to she's Comey's daughter and she's to blame for Diddy or something, but it was pretty clear there was a motive there. There was a strategic reason related to closing the Epstein files. This is it, because they knew they were going to do this and they needed not to have an assigned prosecutor who could demand to be involved. That does not seem coincidental. It seems like they wanted Maureen not to be present in the Department of Justice, Rocha said, to be able to say, what the heck, you can't go talk to my defendant. Rocha, a Democrat who served as Westchester County District Attorney from 2020 to 2024, criticized Blanche's meetings with Maxwell, saying his apparent failure to include a prosecutor with deep knowledge of her crimes was unfair to Epstein's victims. Quote, the head of that entire institution that is supposed to be about protecting victims is talking to her, giving her a platform to say God knows what without much way to verify it or not, Rocha said. The real people who could test her truth-telling are the people who worked on the case, not Todd. Okay, so now it makes sense, the timing of the Comey firing. is part of this overall effort to control the case and cover up whatever Trump's relationship with Epstein was and what crimes he may or may not have committed. But it gets better. He keeps talking about the question of pardoning Maxwell. Now, this follows, you might remember, a while back, he wished her well when he was asked about her in 2020, and he wished her well. And in a follow-up interview with Axios on HBO, he said, "I wish everybody well. I wish everybody well. Her boyfriend, he deleted himself in jail. It's terrible." Trump, as he is known, the compassionate one. So here he is being asked about pardoning Ghislaine.
Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if she's cooperating?
It's something I haven't thought about. It's really something. It's something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
But you wouldn't rule it out, sir?
Haven't thought about it. Have not thought about this issue that I'm being beat up in the press about every single day.
Listen, I'm just trying to get the windmills out of Europe. That's what I'm focused on right now.
Who's going to speak for the birds? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And he went on again on the other side of the pond in Scotland about this.
Interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell, what are you hoping that they get out of that?
I really have no.
Okay, now keep in mind, he was not even asked about pardoning. He was being asked about the interview, the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is being interviewed. Nobody asked him about pardons here.
Really nothing to say about it. She is being talked to by a very smart man, by a very good man, Todd Blanche. And I don't know anything about the conversation. I haven't really been following it. A lot of people are asking me about pardons. Obviously, this is no time to be talking about pardons. But a lot of people have asked about pardon. This is just not a time to be talking about pardons. Todd will come back with whatever he's got. You're making a very big thing over something that's not a big thing. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton, talk about the former president of Harvard, talk about all of his friends, talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him all the time. Don't talk about Trump.
Yeah. Okay, so we have seen Trump talk this way before. Here is some video of him talking about other people that he hadn't thought about pardoning.
I don't want to talk about pardons for Michael Flynn yet.
You pardon Paul Manafort?
I have not even given it a thought as of this moment.
Roger Stone, are you going to pardon him, sir? He's been convicted of felonies.
Am I going to pardon him? Well, I hadn't thought of it. I think it's very tough what they did to Roger Stone.
Kind of seems like he's going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. So somebody tweeted this out. This was pretty funny. MAGA, release the Epstein files. Trump, best I could do is pardon Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes.
Kind of looks like that's where it's going. Now, why might he want to do that? Well, here he is in happier times with Jeff and Ghislaine, his buddies. Many, many photos with him, with her. What might she have to reveal? What might she have to reveal? Well, sometime in early 2016, Ghislaine Maxwell tells CBS producer Ira Rosen that Epstein has tapes of Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, but she doesn't know where he keeps them. And that story was confirmed by at least one Epstein accuser who claimed that she actually had sex tapes of Trump, Clinton, Prince Andrew, and Richard Branson. Her name is Ransone. She backed down on that claim, but then later on said she only backed down because her life was threatened. Certainly a pattern in this story. There is some speculation that the reason the Wall Street Journal got that book was through Ghislaine's people, that was kind of a veiled threat. Trump's behavior makes absolutely no sense if you believe that Ghislaine doesn't have anything over him. It doesn't make any sense. Why is he having her interviewed privately by his personal attorney that he installed at the DOJ right after he fired the prosecutor responsible for the case, the person who would have had some authority to demand to be in that room gets rid of her right before this interview. Personal relationship between Blanche and her attorney. And the fact that Trump, anytime this comes up, seems to shit himself. They didn't even ask him in Scotland about pardoning. He's got pardoning on the brain. It seems like that meeting, those interviews, was about cutting some kind of a deal for her. He might not be able to do it while he's still in office. The agreement might have been that's one of the pardons he'll do in his final days in office.
I'll see your Fauci. I'll raise you a Maxwell.
Exactly. Yeah. In the meantime, do me a favor. Don't release any more books.
Right.
No more of this. Keep those tapes under wraps. Keep,
they're also going to want
things you got secret.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they're also probably going to want names. I mean, when you look at this, I mean, the fuckery is just, I wouldn't even say it's hidden in plain sight. It's in plain sight. It's not hidden at all. It's the most obvious screw job I've ever seen, quite possibly. So, okay, so you send your personal lawyer to interview Ghislaine Maxwell behind closed doors. She reveals a bunch of names, none of whom is Donald Trump. So then you can say that you got to the bottom of the Epstein case, and then you pardon her. I started even seeing some MAGA accounts say, hey, you know what? If she sings and she names names, then pardoning her wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because you're basically letting her walk for the sake of getting all these other people. Of course, like I said, to say it's hidden in plain sight is an overstatement. It's not hidden at all.
Right. No.
She's being interviewed by the president's personal lawyers behind closed doors. How can you trust?
And they won't let the FBI in.
Right. I mean, how could you trust that she's not covering for certain people in order to potentially get a pardon? And I think you're right. I don't think it will happen now. I think it'll be one of those 11th hour things on the way out the door. Yeah, I mean, that seems most likely to me. Like, I can't make a case that anything is more likely than that. Right? I mean, they're under pressure to get some info out because the whole nothing to see here didn't work. So now they got to put something out. So they see what she can give them. They'll say, here's what we need in order to give you a pardon in a couple years. Can you make this happen for us? I mean, it's actually quite simple. It's quite simple. It's so obvious. I mean, it's kind of stunningly simple.
Right. Go after it. You know what? Name Bill Clinton.
Right. Yeah. Just give us a few liberal.
Tell him I just had dinner with you guys.
Exactly. Let's see. Give us Bill Clinton. How about Ben Stiller? How about who else do I hate?
Larry
Stephen
Summers
Colbert.
prick. I hate that guy.
Yeah. Maybe Colbert. Give us a few. Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah. Name her too. And again, in a few years we'll let you go. You know. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like the reality is not much stranger than parody.
No. And really, if you look at, we're going to be covering elements of the Paramount Skydance merger that have been going criminally undercovered a little later in the show. If you look at the totality of who Trump is and what he's done, it is literally like he is doing everything that MAGA thought they were voting to put a stop to.
Right.
He is the elite fan of the playground, Epstein cavorting pervert that they were supposed to be getting accountability for by electing him. He is the guy building a deep state surveillance network of the World Economic Forum evil globalist worst nightmares. He's doing everything they thought they were voting for him to prevent.
Yep, 100%. All right, folks, we are at 2,885 in the YouTube room.
In the year 2525.
And at 1,039 likes. We all know what that means. All righty. Jake, can you hit our scroll, please? And thank you. Shout out to Jake in the booth once again, everybody. Hey, so on Thursday, we had a great time. We had a post-game where we did extra segments, and we took your calls. So we dropped the South Park segment and the Ozzy segment as clips. The South Park segment we can't put on YouTube because of copyright purposes, so you could watch the full South Park segment where we react to the clips themselves by signing up at dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or/locals. The links are right at the top of that screen there. Dealer's choice. Perks of membership include a monthly film club, which will be sometime this week. We'll have that finalized probably on Tuesday's show. Also, you get call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which happen once a week every Sunday night over on Rumble after the main show. Tonight, of course, is Sunday, which means we will be going over for Q&A after the conclusion of the program. You also get your name up in lights. One cool feature of the membership is that you get ad-free replays of every live stream posted the day after they air. So if you miss a show and you want to watch the replay free of ad interruption, you get an ad-free version of every stream emailed to you the day after it airs publicly. So all that for just $5 a month or $50 a year if you sign up on Substack and Locals. Plus the good karma of supporting independent media. We could not do this show without our members, so thank you all very much for your support. That's dudissidents.com/Patreon. Excuse me, Substack or Locals to sign up. The links are right there at the top of the scroll. Ryan Spence says it's disappointing and a little eye-roll inducing to see guys like Jeffrey Sachs and Glenn have such a soft spot for Tulsi when they call BS on so much else. Yeah, I know Sachs was had high hopes for Tulsi in particular. Yeah. She's got a lot going on. John Olmstead says, I'm from Washington State. Unfortunately, I live in a red city between PDX and Tacoma, but the tone from the MAGA people has been sad lately. Well, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. I can't imagine it wouldn't be. I know Seattle and Portland are big progressive towns, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we've said many times, man, like the best of MAGA are walking away.
Right.
You're
exactly.
left with the worst.
Right.
Just like Democrats.
Right. Like the best of them are really not MAGA anymore. How could you be associated with this at this point? Furrow Squeen Fire Dancer says, High Rollers in tonight. I prefer to pepper you with $1 and harass you gradually. Sorry to the chat who's sick of me and DMB, but Dave's son is called August. Free Palestine. Thanks, Furrow Squeen. Appreciate that. Kemen G says, we're counting on you, Trump. The most depressing phrase I've heard all year. Yeah, exactly. Yes, that is quite bleak. I agree. Kemen G says, Yipin Gay is a Canadian doctor who has been to Gaza a few times. He was targeted for harassment by Zionist Canadian doctor groups who wanted him to lose his license for anti-Semitism.
Yeah, that's the nationality I was asking you. I misunderstood. I thought that was the lawyer.
Oh, gotcha. No. Yeah, no, he was just posting the video of the lawyer. Yeah. V. Nettlesbaum says, any update on Chris Smalls and the Freedom Flotilla? Well, I'm assuming you posted that before the segment. That's the latest we have going into tonight. So, I mean, there will be more updates throughout the week, obviously, which we will stay on top of. Kemen G says Jacob Berger is based. First the walking Jew, now the sailing Jew, hopefully never the flying Jew, given recent events. Yeah, exactly. No kidding. Let's see here. Mark Pugli says, Russ, the Mavi Marmara was when the IDF repelled from helicopters and killed the unarmed crew with automatic weapons. Because 67, I had a surreal moment this weekend at my in-laws' very wealthy country club to watch a Billy Joel cover band. They played Allentown, everyone dancing. I'm sure no one knew the meaning of the song. Monkey Rotary.
That was funny. I was over at my friend Vince's house the other night. He was recommending, HBO has a two-part documentary about him now. He's I wasn't going to watch it. He talked me into it. It sounds pretty interesting. Apparently, Billy Joel can't really read music.
Interesting.
He kind of taught himself, more or
Right.
less. Like his father was a pianist, and he picked some things up, but he left pretty early. Yeah, I never really delved into his biography. Like, I knew vaguely his mother was a little crazy or something, but apparently she was like an alcoholic. And he just kind of taught himself to play.
Interesting. I'm not saying Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. DT said he was in the Epstein files. There you go. That's right. That's right. He says, yeah, they're all fake stuff with me. Mark Puglisi says, you guys are wrong. Heads should roll for Russiagate. After all, how else will we put Rachel in a prison camp? Yes, good point, Mark Puglisi. Janet Till says, Todd Blanche is a fake name. Check that man's closet for skeletons. Thank you for that very much. All righty. We will continue on, folks. Thanks, everybody, very much for being here. Please smash that follow button on Rumble. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube and that like button wherever you are. Okay. So now that the world has, I won't say united in condemnation of the deliberate starvation of Gaza, but now that this weekend seems to have hit a lot of people all at once, the severity of the crime being committed there, you're starting to see a lot of people with reputations to maintain, kind of, you know, how do you put this? Whitewash their own positions on this issue. Try and get you to kind of forget how vocal they were in support of the Israeli genocide. Case in point, Barry Weiss's The Free Press runs this important piece. The price of flour shows the growing hunger crisis in Gaza. Important, from whoever this writer is, in The Free Press. So yes, now The Free Press is putting out pieces, important conversations about the hunger crisis in Gaza, to which Blakely replies, you've literally spent the last 2 years and even created your trash propaganda rag for this purpose, lying about the Palestinians, putting a death target on, I translate 1, 2, 3. I'm assuming that would be Rafat, his handle, maybe it's a tribute handle, and cheering on this Holocaust. People like you should be tried at The Hague. I chimed in from my personal account. I said, I guess this is the phase of the genocide where degenerate scum like you try and wash your hands of it by slowly feigning concern for Palestinians. Too late. And Alex Goldman points out, Barry, you published this in May. That's right, 2 months ago. 2 months ago, they run a story, The Gaza Famine Myth. Here comes it, folks. This is these people are going to try and now launder their own reputation. So here's Senator Amy Klobuchar. This went pretty viral, 1.8 million views, raising concerns about acute malnutrition and widespread hunger in Gaza.
Humanitarian aid must immediately reach the civilian population in Gaza. As one pediatric doctor, the leader of the ward at Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza, said, there is no one in Gaza now outside the scope of famine, not even myself. This is the pediatrician who leads the ward. He says, I am speaking to you as a health official, but I too am searching for flour to feed my family. As the New York Times notes, the World Food Program, an arm of the United Nations, said this week that the hunger crisis in Gaza has reached, in their words, new and astonishing levels of desperation, with 1/3, that's right, 1/3 of the population now eating for multiple days in a row.
Not eating
If
for
you
multiple
could ask
days in a row.
our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to tell them this is an important matter.
Give order, please.
That's funny. That's funny. Could you ask our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to tell them this is an important matter? Yeah, this seemed like a really important matter to you guys when Joe Biden was president, or way back when you posed in this photo with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, along with all of these other Senator, see, there you are. You are complicit, says Comrade D, you disingenuous stapler-throwing, comb-forked salad-eating. Google, that's right. There she is, posing with Netanyahu. This was way back when Joe Biden was president, right? Oh, no, that was just a couple of weeks ago. Just a couple of weeks ago. She was posing for a photo with Benjamin Netanyahu, and she actually showed her face. If you notice in this one, you know, Cory Booker got a lot of flack. He is on the right there, right behind the guy in the black suit, third from the right. You could see Cory Booker posing for the photo, but hiding his face so that people wouldn't notice him there. Klobuchar didn't even do that. Just 2 weeks ago, bipartisan group of senators meets with Netanyahu despite ICC arrest warrant. That's Amy Klobuchar now saying, hey, tell my Republican friends this is important. They just don't get it. Democrats love Palestine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
At 11th hour, writes Common Dreams, Julia Conley in Common Dreams, enablers of Israel's mass starvation of Gaza do reputational damage control. U.S. college students are still facing punishment for protesting Israel's U.S.-backed bombardment of Gaza and its starvation of more than 2 million Palestinians there, with Columbia University announcing this week the suspension and expulsion of dozens of students who spoke out over the past year. That's right. That's right. So as this outcry is happening, you have students getting suspended and expelled from school for protesting the same shit that now Amy Klobuchar all of a sudden cares about. Hillary Clinton, as we'll see, all of a sudden cares about. Barry Weiss all of a sudden cares about. But a number of observers have pointed, I hope these students sue the shit out of this university someday. That's what I hope happens. They will have a lawsuit someday. Someday when, sorry boomers, but someday when the young people have some power, right, and they appoint people who actually see justice for what it is, there's going to be some lawsuits if your life was upended over protesting this genocide. I think that will happen at some point, and I sure hope it does. But a number of observers have pointed to a shift in the rhetoric of some of the student organizers' biggest detractors in recent days, with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton notably saying Thursday that thousands of children in Gaza are at risk of starvation while trucks full of food sit waiting across the border, and calling for the full flow of humanitarian assistance to be restored. That's right. This is the tweet that she put out saying exactly that. Clinton didn't mention the Israeli blockade that has kept food from reaching Palestinians, more than 120 of whom have now died of starvation, or the at least $12.5 billion in military aid the U.S. has provided to Israel since the blockade first began in October 2023, in violation of U.S. laws prohibiting the government from giving military aid to countries that block humanitarian aid. The former Democratic presidential nominee also didn't acknowledge the remarks she made in May of 2024 about the campus protests that were spreading across the country, with students demanding that their schools divest from companies that work with the Israeli government and that the country end its support for the IDF. So yes, this is Hillary Clinton just over 1 year ago, May of 2024.
I have had many conversations, as you have had, with a lot of young people over the last many months now. And you're right, they don't know very much at all about the history of the Middle East, or frankly about history in many areas of the world, including in our own country. But with respect to the Middle East, they don't know that under the bringing together of the Israelis and the Palestinians by my husband, the then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, the then head of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, then the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat. An offer was made to the Palestinians for a state on 96% of the existing territory occupied by the Palestinians, with 4% of Israel to be given to reach 100% of the amount of territory that was hoped for. And this offer was made, and if Yasser Arafat had accepted it, there would have been a Palestinian state now for about 24 years.
She was right
Came,
about everything.
we saw, he died.
Yes, she's quite the humanitarian, that one.
She was right about everything, wasn't she? Well, you know what those young people did know? They knew a genocide when they saw one. That's what they knew. They knew a lot more than you. A lot more important. So Max tweets out here, if you were, and these tweets were mostly sourced from that Common Dreams write-up, which was very good. If you're wondering why the dam has broken on Gaza, it's simple. Israel carried out their final solution. It's done. Every town has been flattened. Everyone still alive is experiencing a level of famine they can't come back from. Criticizing it now is too late. That's why. Yes, good point. So here's a radio interview with a couple of Gaza doctors that was put together by NPR, where they talk about some of the irreversible damage that these starving children have almost certainly undergone at this point, which means even if you flood the zone, quote unquote, with aid starting this second, it is too late for many, if not most, of these people to live anything resembling a normal life, just biologically speaking. Obviously, all of these people are going to have deep psychological scars for the rest of their lives. But just in terms of the health impact of undergoing starvation this early in life, here is an excerpt from that interview where they get into that a little bit.
The UN says a third of people go multiple days without eating now. On Friday, Gaza health authorities said that 9 people had died from malnutrition in the previous 24 hours alone. Dr. Mohammed Mansour is a senior nutrition manager with the International Rescue Committee in Gaza. He says after 20 months of restricted food, he is seeing a severe shortage of significant nutrition elements in diets like iron, magnesium, and calcium. Because no one can get meat, vegetables, or fruit, he sees growing levels of stunting in children. That impacts the development of a child's heart, liver, and circulatory system. Dr. Mansour knows in clinical detail how children's bodies are being destroyed by hunger because he sees it happening in his own 2 children. He says he asks himself every night whether his children will see the next morning. He says he feels helpless and unable to protect them. The United Nations says about 90,000 women and children are severely malnourished in Gaza and need immediate medical care this week. This war is scarring a generation of children, says Ahmed Al-Farra, a doctor who heads the pediatric ward at Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza.
A generation of children who are below 3 years because the central nervous system is nearly composed in this 3 years.
If these children survive, Al-Farra worries they will suffer from neurological impairments brought by the starvation.
Like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, difficulty in school performance, in comprehension, speaking.
So once again, that's assuming all of this stops right now.
Right.
This is the kind of irreparable damage that's been done to these kids. So Jeff Stein observes fascinating shift on Israel in the last few days from a very wide range of center-left politicians and voices that had previously defended the country's conduct. So Megan Stack observes, always glad to see anyone wake up, but it's an absolute indictment of the center-left, such as it is, that it took pictures of dying skeletal babies with trash bags for diapers to muster this pale response. Subtext, we can stomach mass bombings, but starvation is a bridge too far. Yeah, you can't even totally chalk this up to the fact that this is Trump's genocide now, because it's been Trump's genocide for 6 months. We didn't hear shit from Hakeem Jeffries about this until yesterday. We didn't hear shit from Barack Obama about this until today, even with the switch from Biden to Trump. Megan continues, Gaza was a crime before the war. A legal black hole where people lived and died without basic rights or sovereignty, with Israel, with help from bribed Egypt, keeping a stranglehold on the perimeter and approving or disapproving every item or human being to cross in or out. Exactly. with Israel and its U.S. backers parroting this fiction about how Gaza had been left to itself and could build any sort of country the people wanted, talking a lot about what Hillary Clinton said in that May of 2024 clip that we just watched. The starvation is the result of crime upon crime. Absolutely. If you control the flow of goods and resources and even utilities in and out of a place, well, it's only a matter of time before thing like this happens.
They weren't allowed to fish their own waters.
That's right. They're not even allowed to fish their own waters. Exactly. So Hakeem Jeffries finally broke his silence on this issue. He tweets out, during the first 6 months of Donald Trump's time in office, see, he goes right at Trump.
Yeah.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza has reached a breaking point. Hostages are still being held by Hamas despite the president's promise they would be released, and the pre-existing ceasefire the administration inherited has been breached. So there he is giving Joe Biden credit for the ceasefire, which we all know was Donald Trump's envoy that secured that ceasefire. It had nothing to do with Joe Biden. It had to do with Witkoff going to Netanyahu and saying, you know what, we could really use a great photo op at our inauguration if we could get some freed hostage families on stage with us. So we're going to fight. It would be great if we could like stop this for a few months and then you could start back up again. So it was a fake ceasefire. It was a temporary ceasefire, never designed to be permanent, but it was Trump who negotiated that, not Joe Biden. The way Hakeem makes it sound is that Joe Biden had you set up for a permanent peace because there was a ceasefire when he left office. So this is the kind of partisanship you would expect from a complete sleazebag like Hakeem Jeffries. The starvation and death of Palestinian children and civilians in an ongoing war zone is unacceptable. The Trump administration has the ability to bring an end to this humanitarian crisis. They must act now. He continues, it is imperative that humanitarian aid be surged into Gaza immediately, the remaining Israeli hostages be released, and the ceasefire negotiated by the Biden administration restored. We need a just and lasting peace. Ultimately, that will only occur through a two-state solution that facilitates a safe and secure Israel living side by side with a Palestinian state that provides dignity, self-determination, and prosperity for its people. Yeah, exactly. So as you can see here, he got ratioed on that. 1.1 thousand likes to 1.4 thousand comments. Michael Ravella says, you've enabled this genocide for almost 2 years. Ray Mullings, God, I can't wait for the fucking lot of you to go to The Hague. Empire of Lies. Genocide Joe and Zionist puppets like Hakeem Jeffries, they are the reason Gaza lies in ruins today. The hypocrisy of these AIPAC-controlled creeps is almost beyond description. What hypocrisy, you ask? Well, Ken Klippenstein points out Hakeem Jeffries tweeted the word Gaza for the first time today since Trump came into office. He has not tweeted the word Gaza in, 6 months? What is it, 6 months? Yep. Jimmy tweets out, AIPAC-backed Hakeem Jeffries dropped this statement at 10 p.m. late Friday night. That's right. That's right. That was his statement. And, of course, the receipts here from AIPAC Tracker. Hakeem Jeffries funded by AIPAC to the tune of $1,742,000. But he was outdone. He was outdone. Late breaking just before the show went to air. Barack Obama finally made a statement about Gaza. Wow. Wow. While a lasting resolution to the... What's that?
My gay professor told me about Gaza.
Yeah, he told me about. He learned all about it.
Learned all about Gaza from my gay professor.
Yeah. While a lasting resolution to the crisis in Gaza must involve a return of all hostages and a cessation of Israel's military operations, these articles, meaning the New York Times article that he linked to, and one that he linked to in a reply to his own tweet, these articles underscore the immediate need for action to be taken to prevent the travesty of innocent people dying of preventable starvation. So that was his big statement after really 2 years of silence. I mean, he has not spoken about this issue really at all. No. This is the first mealy-mouthed statement of its kind, certainly of 2025. But even before that, was he talking about Israel-Palestine on the campaign trail? None. Not a peep. Not a peep from this man. And go ahead.
That's a very typical Barack Obama getting on every side of the issue with weak tea to boot kind of a statement. On the one hand, people have to stay in their homes. On the other hand, we have to give a lot of money to bankers because they donate a lot to us.
Right.
So that means we got to kick some of those people out of their homes, but in a fair way.
Right. Yeah, but in a fair way. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's what Barack Obama has to say about this now, 21 months in, issuing basically what ChatGPT could have wrote. Like if you ask ChatGPT, what does Obama have to say about the Gaza genocide? This is exactly what it would write.
Yep.
And it would have nailed it. So yeah, I mean, you have now Democrats, I think, reading the polls and realizing that actually their base is now pro-Palestine by 43 points as of the latest poll, which is over a 50-point swing from 2024. And so I think they are starting to realize that they have to look like they give a shit. And obviously the shamelessness of people like Amy Klobuchar and Hakeem Jeffries knows no bottom. With Hillary, I don't even know if it's shamelessness. I don't even know how to explain what she wrote there in terms of food aid coming in. And then obviously the most telling of them all is the Free Press now running stories acknowledging the hunger crisis in Gaza, right?
That's the topper.
I mean, that's the topper. That is the topper. They ran a piece in May denying that there was famine in Gaza, and there has been famine in Gaza. That would have been what, 60 days into the initial blockade? The blockade was implemented, I think, early March. So there'll be March, April, May. So yeah, at the time they printed that article, no food had been allowed in for 2 months, and they run an article saying there's no famine in Gaza. And again, I mean, maybe there's no answer to that. I don't know. I have to look into this more. I don't understand why it's like Friday a switch flipped and everyone online was talking about this. I don't understand why. Maybe it was the Times report and the USAID report, which said there's no evidence to suggest that Hamas was stealing the aid. Maybe that tipped people off. Hey, wait a minute. They've been lying this whole time. I can't think of any other reason. I mean, this has been an ongoing horror, an ongoing nightmare. And the fact that so many people are talking about this now, and so many people who had been so indifferent at best to the plight of the Palestinians, antagonistic at worst in the form of a Barry Weiss, I honestly don't know how to explain this. Like, I don't really have a take on why this is happening right now. It's very, very confusing. I'll take it, obviously, but I can't explain it, honestly.
I think that it may be as simple as, I hate to say this, but it kicked up to a level where you're about to have a mass die-off. There.
Well, that's what one of the people.
Like, it
one
seems
of the tweets
like it
there,
just got to such a level that it's now or never that you pretend that you had something to say about this at the time.
You know, you could be right because, one of the tweets in the slideshow there was somebody saying, they're speaking out about it now because it's too late, because there's nothing that can be done
You've
about it
got
now.
doctors passing out in the hospital for lack of food.
Right.
We didn't hear things like that before. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like it's gotten to another level of deadliness where, it's going to get really horrific to the point that, the reporting is saying that the Israelis are opening up aid corridors to the UN. It sounds like even they're starting to worry about how this is going to look, what's about to happen to the civilian population there. I think it may be as simple as that. If you look at this, and this is really the curse of the activist. Every activist is in the position of being a perennial Cassandra. It's by definition, that's the gig. You take the righteous position and you try to force these cowardly, corrupt scum in leadership, in business, in media to take up that position. And your job is to force the conversation and to not allow them to avoid it until finally they take your position. That's the win. I think very often a lot of people don't want to take the win when they get the win because they're so angry at the obvious hypocrisy of the people adopting that position that you've been fighting for years. But isn't that what you were trying to do?
Right.
Like, yeah, man, Amy Klobuchar should be in the fucking Hague, man. All of these people should go to prison for life. But, you know, I mean, we're not going to see that anytime soon. Your activism is aimed at, unfortunately, getting these people who are in power, who should not be anywhere near power, to do what they're doing now. That's it. It's frustrating. It's infuriating. But isn't that what we've been trying to do?
Well, that's why I said, yeah. I mean, I'd rather see it than not.
Right.
You know, we're still a far cry from doing anything about it. Like I said, this government is the only one that seems to be in complete denial at the executive level, at least, that there is a mass crime being committed. And we'll have more about that in the next part of this piece, actually, which actually I'll go into right now, since this is essentially a part B. So we're talking about the various reactions to the Gaza starvation. And this one, I think, was worth its own piece about. From one, Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, who says the suffering and starvation unfolding in Gaza is unspeakable and indefensible. So we will read this brief statement in its entirety. The suffering and starvation unfolding in Gaza is unspeakable and indefensible. While the situation has been grave for some time, it has reached new depths and continues to worsen. We are witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe. I will hold an emergency call with E3 partners tomorrow, where we will discuss what we can do urgently to stop the killing and get people the food they desperately need, while pulling together all the steps necessary to build a lasting peace. We all agree on the pressing need for Israel to change course and allow the aid that is desperately needed to enter Gaza without delay. It is hard to see a hopeful future in such dark times, but I must reiterate my call for all sides to engage in good faith and at pace to bring about an immediate ceasefire, and for Hamas to unconditionally release all hostages. We strongly support the efforts of the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt to secure this. We are clear that statehood is the inalienable right of the Palestinian people. A ceasefire will put us on a path to the recognition of a Palestinian state and a two-state solution which guarantees peace and security for Palestinians and Israelis. Now, that last part there, we are clear that statehood is the inalienable right of the Palestinian people. That is an extraordinary statement from a guy who, in October of 2023, as BDS points out here, what's truly unspeakable and indefensible is the complicity of Keir Starmer and his government in Israel's live-stream genocide against 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. And yeah, they pulled this sound, which we have now shown many, many times on this show, because it is really remarkable to hear this.
Appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
So, in October 2023, when they cut off all power, all water to Gaza, Keir Starmer was asked, do they have the right to do that? And he says, yes, they do. Now, how can you support Palestinian statehood and also support Israel's right to cut their water off? That makes no sense. Yeah. That makes no sense. There is just no way you can believe both of those things. There's no way.
Can we just say the two-state thing is just the coward's retreat? Can we just say that? Clearly, Israel cannot be allowed to exist. It cannot be allowed to exist as what it is, as an apartheid state. Right. It cannot. Anyone who starts saying two-state solution, they're trying to find a way to support Israel while pretending to have a shred of humanity, which they do not. If they did, you would not make a statement like that. How on earth do you say something like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I do want to be clear. I think it's important because when governments start recognizing Palestinian statehood, that is an important step towards an eventual one-state solution, which is what from the river to the sea means. It means equal rights on all of that land, right? It means Israel no longer exists as an apartheid Jewish state, but as a democratic state with equal rights for everyone on that land. Now, recognition of a Palestinian state is an important step towards that. It's not insignificant to recognize a state of Palestine. I thought Glenn Lowry made a good point about that. He said, look, you know, if you want the violence to stop, you know, the first thing you have to do is enshrine Palestinians with a state, because now they have a recognized, organized structure that they can then take into further negotiations. As it stands, they're really not allowed to organize politically, economically, militarily.
Well,
they're just an imprisoned population. So statehood as a step towards the abolition of apartheid Israel, that's important. Statehood as an end in and of itself, okay, we're just going to establish a two-state solution, that's obviously not tenable. Obviously. I mean, that goes without saying at this point. It's a ridiculous proposal at this point.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton in that clip that you played earlier, painting this rosy picture of this two-state solution. What she's not telling you is they were not going to be allowed to have their own military. They were not going to be allowed to have their own diplomatic services. They were not going to have the agency of a state. They were going to have the name of a state. And then there were going to be all of these separate little pockets of this state. It would not have been contiguous. I would highly recommend the book sitting behind me if you want more on this in a concise way. If you don't have time to read an 800-page book, 10 Myths About Israel talks quite a lot about that deal.
Yes. So Jeremy Corbyn pounced on this. He replied to Keir Starmer's statement saying, empty words cannot hide the truth. Your government is complicit in genocide. We are an unstoppable movement for peace, for justice, and for Palestine, and we are never, ever going away. And by movement, he is, of course, referring to the new party that he just launched. So on Friday, he puts out this release. It's time for a new kind of political party, one that belongs to you. Sign up at yourparty.uk. It is still unnamed at this point, but here he is at a protest doing an interview for the press about the current starvation in Gaza. He's asked about Keir Starmer's statement and this new party that he is launching just as all of this is coming out.
Disgusting. And as the Palestinian speaker just said, the children of Gaza are starving, not because the world couldn't help, because the world refused to help.
Time is running out in Gaza. What must the UK government do now?
Stop all arms supplies and security information going to Israel, the use of RAF Akrotiri, stop the supply immediately of all parts for F-35 jets, and immediately just announce we are delivering food aid into Gaza. Just take it there, and under the auspices of the UN, saying we're facilitating the UNRWA forces and the World Food Programme getting aid in there.
Keir Starmer called the situation in Gaza indefensible. The tide seems to be turning in the BBC, The Guardian, even The Express has come out with sort of pictures of starvation. Is a tide turning on Gaza?
At last, public opinion is forcing the political hand. About time too.
You've almost launched a political party. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
Very pleased. We announced yesterday morning at midday, so we've been on the go for 28 hours. And I've just got a message a moment ago saying the number of people that have signed up has just passed 300,000. The working title is yourparty.uk. It's your party. Now, it may not end up being the name, but it might be the name. I want ideas for the name.
If you've got ideas for the name, let us know.
Ideas for the name, let me know. It's your party, okay?
What's the core message?
The core message is simply this. Britain should be a voice for peace in the world, not a voice for new nuclear weapons, not a voice for war, not a voice for selling arms. Secondly, Our country is deeply divided. The levels of poverty are getting worse and worse. We're having none of that. We are a community-based, grassroots, united organisation determined to challenge the establishment and bring about real political change to give real hope, not just to our children, but to show that in a Western industrialised country, change can come. And you know what? It will.
Do you want to be Prime Minister?
Listen, mate, let's see what happens.
Thank you so much.
And the new party has registered 500,000 signups in just these past 3 days. So obviously, Keir Starmer making that statement of such obvious, bald-faced hypocrisy really gave Corbyn the perfect opportunity to pounce and to claim some vindication, which for all his flaws, I understand there are certain people, you know, who talk about Corbyn as a social democrat and weak tea, and that's fine. I'm not an expert on him or his record. But you're talking about a guy who was relentlessly and viciously smeared as a rank anti-Semite for saying essentially what he's saying now. And now the world has basically come to his position. So, you know, I think he is entitled to some vindication on that front for all of his flaws, and seems like he's getting that. 500,000 signups. Hey, he comes with the endorsement of Zay Squirrel, which is not an easy endorsement to get. Zay Squirrel could be a tough nut to crack, am I right? There's a dad joke. Yeah.
I thought that was me with the flock of lemon. I was me with a squirrel.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
What the hell am I made with a squirrel for?
Apparently, Zay Squirrel is British. I did not know that, but they're outing themselves here. Well, it says, I've signed up to Corbyn's new party, and I recommend everybody else does as well.
Infiltrator.
Yeah, we have to ensure that it will be an actually anti-Zionist, anti-imperialist, socialist Labour Party, not a bullshit Owen Jones, Guardian, George Monbiot, NATO, soft left Labour clone. So there you go. He thinks it's worth a shot. He or she or they Squirrel. We should call him they Squirrel since we don't know their gender. How's that? Starmer faces difficult task persuading Trump to take different path on Gaza. Okay, so aside from all these problems that now he's having, not a great time for Donald Trump to come to town. As Corbyn's party essentially ate into, I mean, if you look at the polls for Jeremy Corbyn's new party, overwhelming support from those 26 and younger, taking double-digit support away from Labor. So at this moment, tough week to have to deal with a visit from Donald Trump, given especially Trump's new position on Gaza, new wink, wink, quote unquote, now formally saying, hey, you know what? Israel has to finish the job against Gaza now that all hope for a ceasefire is apparently lost.
Gaza, they pulled out in terms of negotiating. It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad.
Are you done?
And it got to be to a point where you're gonna have to finish the job. They really they asked the things. Don't forget, we got a lot of hostages out.
Yeah, okay, we get the point. Finish the job. The prime minister now faces his toughest diplomatic task of all, trying to persuade Trump to take a different path on the humanitarian crisis in the Middle East. Even getting the issue on the agenda will not have been straightforward, with the White House not regarding Gaza as a priority. The initial urgency is around humanitarian aid, with mass starvation spreading across Gaza, and Starmer will be hoping to persuade Trump that the situation on the ground will only worsen unless the Israelis fully lift their blockade of almost all aid into the territory. The longer-term prize, however, would be a ceasefire. Yeah, again, you just heard it from his mouth. Not going to happen. Starmer will press Trump to revive ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas after the U.S. and Israel withdrew their negotiation teams from Qatar last week. Getting them back round the table to agree a 60-day break from fighting is a prerequisite to a more permanent cessation of violence. And so I thought this is a great summation of this here. Hamza Yousef, when the new Corbyn Sultana party inevitably faces manufactured anti-Semitism smears, I really hope the lessons of 2015 to 2019 has been learned. Don't concede an inch. That's right. Remember in 2015 to 2019 when they did that big self-investigation of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership? Yeah, the lesson is when you indulge that, you're not actually making it any better. You're just making it worse. You give them an inch, they will take a mile. You're talking about a guy who was really unfairly maligned as an anti-Semite for no reason, for saying exactly what he's saying now.
Yeah.
Exactly what he's saying now. And now the world has realized that he was right. So yes, learn that lesson. Don't give an inch. Be unapologetic, as they squirrel said here. And good luck to him and his new party. They clearly need one. They clearly need one, just like we need one here. And, you know, you can add now Jeremy Corbyn to the list of people with way more balls than Bernie Sanders, because he's essentially doing now what people were begging Bernie to do even after 2016, right? A lot of people were hoping he would run independent in 2016 or not endorse Hillary in 2016. But even after 2016, you had, you know, Nick Brana launched the, I think it was Bernie for a People's Party. It was Draft Bernie for a People's Party, right? Because he had the credibility and the mass support to get double-digit polling into his party on day one when he launched, which is what Corbyn has done. Corbyn's party already has double-digit support. They've already gotten 500,000 people signed up. This was a confluence of the timing working out well at a time when Keir Starmer has just shown his whole ass on the issue of the day. But yeah, you look at what RFK did when RFK Jr. realized the Democrats were screwing him in the primary. What did he do? He ran as an independent. When that door closed, he shopped to support the Donald Trump, and now he has power, right? Not an endorsement of RFK Jr. Everybody knows what I feel about RFK Jr., but that's another guy who showed more balls than Bernie Sanders. Turn out Bernie, the guy who we all kind of, you know, threw in with, the only one in the world who could just allow the major party to screw him over and not do fuck all about it. Now you have Jeremy Corbyn doing what Bernie should have done 8 years ago and start a new party, and the timing worked out for him. And so all the best to whoever's signing up there. Hopefully they could turn it into something real and good.
If you look at what they did to Corbyn with the anti-Semitism smears, you can see very clearly what kind of the light bulb went on for me at the douchebag dialogues. They're all woke. Everyone's woke. It's just a question of what flavor of woke you're into.
Right.
That what could be more woke than to attack this guy as an anti-Semite for speaking up about the crimes of the Israeli state? Of course it's woke. The whole anti-woke is woke. It's all woke. It's all just different flavors designed to appeal to different personality types and people with different ideological inclinations. Now, with him starting a new party like this, I know a lot of people who live in parliamentary systems talk about the problems with parliamentary systems. Well, you know what? They don't seem to be as bad as the problems that we have.
Right.
Because what Corbyn did there is really not possible here. Now, that is partly because the Republicans and Democrats in America have conspired to make it almost impossible to start a third party. The Populist Party in the late 19th century was able to do it. The Republican Party itself was a third party that displaced the Whigs. So it wasn't always like this. But when you have a parliamentary system, because you have all those different parties, it seems like it's much more difficult, if not impossible, for two of the parties to conspire to create laws to block anyone from creating a new party. So you don't wind up in a position like we are in America, where it's almost impossible, where they've erected these enormous barriers. Like the idea of a guy just going and starting an independent party, and that's it. You're in business in America it's not set up that way by design. It used to be. And they put a stop to that. Now, that having been said, yeah, certainly Bernie probably could have gotten it done. Question in America is how long he would have lived if he had really tried to do that. I don't know. It seems like they don't play as rough overseas as they do here.
Well, it's already a multi-party system over there.
It's already a multi-party system. If you got this one guy, it's all on his shoulders that he's going to go wreck the whole system. Yeah, I don't know how that would have worked out here, but without a doubt, it's not as easy as it seems like over there, Corbyn. I'm not saying you have nothing you have to do, but it seems relatively easy to hang out a shingle, start a party, and just have people join and become a going concern in the next election. It's much more difficult here to do something like that.
Yes, indeed. No question about that. All right. We are going to take a quick game break here to plug one of our dissident sponsors, whose name is John Coa. John Coa has a new single out. It's called Just a Little Off the Rails, and John's been advertising with us for a while now, and this is the latest track from his upcoming album, which is a 34-track epic called A to Z. So the core of these songs were the rhythm tracks from a collection of live acoustic performances between 2017 and 2020. John was going to release just the solo acoustic tracks, but he didn't feel like releasing new music while witnessing the same state of affairs we discuss here on the show. So he decided to wait and continue recording, and now he's in the process of releasing the songs. So Just a Little Off the Rails is the first single, and it's an autobiographical song featuring acoustic guitar, bass, vocals, and slide. It's a great tune. We've played it on Rumble a few times, and so please head on over to John Coa's Spotify to give it a listen. You can find links to John Coa's socials, including a Spotify page, at this handy little link here, dodissidents.com/Coa. See some people in the chat saying this dude rocks. There you go. Reviews are
He
good.
does.
Reviews are good. Yeah, it's great stuff. So dodissidents.com/Coa. Head over there and follow him on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find music. He also is on YouTube, youtube.com/@John Coa. So go subscribe over there as well. All right. Let's see here. RB Ham says the skinny is that Ghislaine's sentence will be commuted, and as long as she agrees to never rely about the Epstein case ever again, she will be a free woman. That looks like it might be in the making. What an amazing story that would be. Birthday greetings to Augie Weiss. Coolest name since Augie Wren, Harvey Keitel, and Smoke 1995. Thanks, Bonzo B.
Wow.
Appreciate that.
That's quite a reference.
Yeah, I never saw that one. Ardeen W. How soon before Trump, Obama, and Clinton are all seen together laughing and joking around? Thanks, Ardeen W. Damon Wolf, if you could believe Mossad caught Adolf fucking Eichmann but couldn't catch a video from their honeypot of Trump's micro-peen in an underage girl. I got a bridge to sell you. Thanks, Damon. 007 Angelo, when the world sends their windmills, they don't send the best, so I deported them. Thank you, 007. Appreciate that very much. Okay, what we got here? Progressive Lefty says, my ex-wife and current girlfriend asked me today about Hamas stealing aid. Gets that from her Zionist parents who love me, not. And I respond almost word for word with what that UN lady said. Thank you for that. Of course, thank you, Progressive Lefty. Appreciate that. Goo81 says they're saying a Gaza protester has died in Egyptian custody. Now they're saying there is a boiling point of Egyptians toward government. They're saying even the Egyptian army is being frustrated. Thank you for that, Goo. Appreciate that. The New Speak Times says, do we really need politicians still? Can't we just vote for stuff? Yeah, direct ballot initiatives. Well, that's a good idea, too. We're definitely supportive of that. Is Zionism almost an anagram for Nazism? Yep, almost. Khan, Russell, that was a good Obama. I am impressed. There you go. You're right, Russ. It's too late, says Progressive Lefty. Kevin G says all dogs go to heaven, but I hope Safakar Lemurs go to hell. Thank you. Good one. Good point on the two-state BS, says Ken Texican. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that very much. All right. Making it rain over here on Rumble. Big night over on Rumble tonight. Thanks, everybody, very much for being here. We got 1,800 filing into the Rumble chat. That's awesome. Pruz, what was your Pruz Nahavandi says Americans must do something about their government unless they want to go down in history for genocide and pedo. Yep, I get you. Sammy 999. One day when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this, says Omar.
Yeah.
Elakhan. Thank you for that. Up the Reds. Thanks for the $4.99. The next extraction from Epstein will be aliens. Yeah, did you see that? They were talking about how they detected some hostile alien activity.
I did. Yeah, it's really more of a thought experiment, that paper. But a lot of media jumped on it for clicks.
Listen. The aliens are coming. We drop everything. They're here.
Get me Jeff Goldblum.
Get me Jeff Goldblum. That's right. Yes. Give me Will Smith. Tommy D71. Netanyahu's son says that Joe TOGSN wouldn't have his Joe Rogan wouldn't have his father on the podcast. Any thoughts on where this will go? Yeah, I heard that Rogan turned down Netanyahu. I'll have to look more into that. I mean, that's a smart move. That's a smart move for him, if that's indeed what he did. Okay. All right, folks.
He doesn't want to lose all his Silicon Valley friends.
That's right. All right, folks. We have one more segment on the evening, and then we are going to Rumble for the Q&A for all who want to join. But we got one more segment on the night before then.
All right. I think my angle on this is going to gladden Keaton's heart. Keaton has always been very skeptical of culture war kinds of things, and I think this story is a prime example. I don't think you could find a better example of the way the culture war is used to obscure what people should actually be talking about. So we're going to talk a little bit about this Paramount Skydance merger. And it takes a lot of twists and turns. Okay, so we covered the, we're filthy whores. We're not above it. We covered the South Park episode about Trump's micro penis.
Hey, something's got to keep the lights on around here.
Yeah, seriously.
Guy's got to eat. I had a birthday party to pay for.
Yeah, he has. This guy has 3 kids and a wife.
Yeah.
We got to do what we got to do. But now, now we're going to get down to brass tacks on this. Okay, so, I watched the episode. It was funny and it was lovely. And I'm not in any way disparaging Trey Parker and Matt Stone. They're great satirists. I think they're sincere. But let's look at this overall context. Okay, so of course the White House responded. I guess they decided this was the rare case where Trump responding to this would be beneath him. Not much that they would consider beneath him, but I guess they decided to just have a spokesperson address it. The left's hypocrisy truly has no end. For years, they have come after South Park for what they labeled as offense content, but suddenly they are praising the show. White House Assistant Press Secretary Taylor Rogers told Deadline this morning. Needless to say, that is a gross oversimplification of how the left, broadly defined, has reacted to South Park. Just like the creators of South Park, the left has no authentic or original content, which is why their popularity continues to hit record lows, Rogers added, in direct contrast to the $1.5 billion agreement Paramount and the South Park duo just inked this week. Yeah, failing South Park. No.
Yeah.
This
ice
show,
cold.
This show hasn't been relevant for over 20 years and is hanging on by a thread with uninspired ideas in a desperate attempt for attention. President Trump has delivered on more promises in just 6 months than any other president in our country's history. And no fourth-rate show can derail President Trump's hot streak. Yeah, you see, man, they're used to going up against, trans swimmers and Stephen Colbert. You really can't pull that shit with South Park.
Right.
It remains incredibly popular. It remains a conversation starter. Yeah, like none of that fit. When you say the failing New York Times, it resonates. When you say the failing South Park, that doesn't land.
It's funny. This is the power of comedy. You can't deny good comedy. because laughter is involuntary. If something makes you laugh, you can't help but laugh, right? And that's what makes comedy a very powerful tool.
Well, you know who agrees with you on this? Jennings went on CNN and praised South Park by way of cursing Stephen Colbert.
Here is that if you're funny and you make money and people want to watch your show, you can do things. And if you're not funny and you're committed to partisan liberal hackery that's hemorrhaging viewers and is not profitable, then you can't do things. And just a few days ago, the left was convinced that Colbert was fired for political reasons. Obviously, this company is airing material that is not favorable to Donald Trump. It is objectively hilarious. I watch every episode of these guys and have for years. I think it's great. But
so you're cool with it?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
There you go.
Okie doke. All right. Now, just to point out, we covered the Colbert thing because we're whores. We covered it. And I do believe that they fired him as a kind of sacrificial lamb for the Skydance Paramount merger approval. However, I think they just timed it that way for that reason. I don't think that's why he got fired. I agree with the essence of what Jennings saying, that if he was making the money, they wouldn't have fired him. But I think they fired him at that time for political reasons. And in regards to whether South Park was in any way impacted by this deal, well, yeah, they delayed airing that episode until after the merger went through. It was supposed to premiere July 2nd, and Stone and Parker put out the statement, this merger is a shit show, and it's fucking up South Park. We are at the studio working on new episodes, and we hope the fans get to see them somehow. Apparently a little concerned that it wouldn't even air. Ultimately, obviously, they did air, but not until after that merger went through. Also, in regards to none of the programming decisions had anything to do with politics. Shari Redstone, this is May 1st, Shari Redstone, Paramount's controlling shareholder, urged CBS News to delay critical Trump stories and settle his $10 billion meritless lawsuit against 60 Minutes to secure FCC approval for the $8 billion Skydance merger, which promises her family a $1.75 billion payout. So, yeah, and they paid him off. Now, I know you'll get some people who say, but they did edit it to make her look better. You know what? To win a lawsuit on that, one, you would have to make the case that they don't have the right to edit that to make her look better. Like, on what grounds do you not have the First Amendment right to do that? And then even if you cleared that hurdle in a court, you would have to prove intent. You would have to prove that that was their intent in the way that they edited it. And intent is almost impossible to prove in a court. So that's what meritless means in a legal context. Doesn't mean they didn't try to make her look better. It means that lawsuit almost certainly would not have succeeded if they pursued it. But they were highly incentivized not to pursue it because they wanted this merger to close, and Shari Redstone wanted her money. Now, some people really celebrated. Paramount really gave Trey Parker and Matt Stone $1.5 billion this week, and they instantly torched the Paramount merger with Skydance. True Americans, a little team from World Police, a little meme from World Police, America, fuck yeah, right? And, you know, the Star Trek geeks have a lot of hope here in this merger. DEI is dead at Paramount. Merger approved. Skydance vows to end bias in news and shows. For anyone who doesn't know, this is the much despised by nerds Michelle Burnham, I think is the name. Michael Burnham is the name of the character on Star Trek Discovery, which, yes, wound up kind of degenerating into the worst of woke excesses. And more, Kiva Goldman urges fans to write to Paramount and Skydance for next Star Trek project. So, they're really hoping they're going to de-woke Star Trek. Okay, so this is what I mean when I say all this culture stuff is really a distraction from what's really happening here. It reminds me of Mr. Burns saying to Homer Simpson, "Oh yes, you can have your pudding. You can have your," remember that episode? You can have your Star Trek. Now I promise you, all these nerd channels that have kind of gone into this, anti-woke space, probably are not really looking at what's happening behind the scenes here. For example, the FCC chairman basically imposed a political litmus test on Skydance and on CBS in exchange for approving this merger. Americans no longer trust the legacy national news media to report fully, accurately, and fairly, Mr. Carr said in the statement. It is time for a change. That is why I welcome Skydance's commitment to make significant changes at the once storied CBS broadcast network. Okay, so what kind? That all sounds good, right? Like if you're anti-woke, and yeah, man, the news has become biased. We've talked about that for years. Nobody would argue otherwise. Obviously, it has a bias. So that would be great. So what's their idea of making the news neutral? Not that there are not issues with a governmental administration predicating approval of a merger on editorial changes at the network. It is problematic, but you can't say it's a solution in search of a problem. Yeah, this has been a problem at these networks. Whether regulatory bodies in the government should be able to address those things in this way, or you're supposed to just leave it to the marketplace, right? All these libertarians would say that's up to the marketplace. But okay. Under a potential deal, Barry Weiss would serve as an ideological guide of sorts at CBS News, according to Puck. Okay, so you're not actually getting rid of ideological bias. This is what we said from the beginning when we saw the kinds of moves that Trump was making. He's just going to install a bias that he likes. You're not going to have a restoration of some kind of Cronkite ideal of objective news coverage. You're going to get Trump news. So they've appointed a Zionist commissar in response to that. Yeah, it looks that way. Poet killer Barry Weiss would serve as a Zionist censor at CBS News. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. A little bit from Puck here. David Rhodes, the one-time CBS News head and current executive at Sky in the UK, is in talks to take over CBS News when the Skydance acquisition of Paramount closes, per 3 sources familiar with the negotiations. As with all of these things, talks could still fall apart. But if David Ellison and his Skydance team sign Rhodes and close a pending deal to acquire the Free Press, the center-right media brand founded by Barry Weiss, the plan would call for Rhodes to manage and operate CBS News day-to-day alongside Weiss as an ideological guide of sorts. Okay, so what is this? Is this restoring CBS to objective journalism, or is this making it a lunatic Zionist right-wing propaganda outlet? What is the effect of that? Having someone from right-wing Sky News with Barry Weiss as the kind of ombudsman deciding what content should be going on 60 Minutes. So now this is the part of this that is really being criminally underreported. So who's David Ellison? David Ellison is on the right there with his father, Larry Ellison. They say, who's in power by who you're not allowed to criticize. You could also say, who's in power by who they don't talk about.
Right, by who you never hear about.
Yeah, we talk all the time about Elon. Everybody talks about Bill Gates. Everybody talks about Jeff Bezos. Nobody talks about this motherfucker. This guy's the second richest man in the world. This guy owns a Hawaiian island. He owns a whole Hawaiian island he paid $300 million for back in 2011. You remember the big project Stargate conference that Trump had very early in his administration, that big press conference people were all freaked out about? That's Larry Ellison. Remember Larry Ellison went on about how they're going to develop the mRNA vaccines? Last I heard, Trump's people don't like that kind of shit. Let's hear what he had to say.
We gene sequence, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Okay. Larry Ellison, also Trump's partner in Stargate, Larry Ellison, wanted to introduce a digital ID off the back of 9/11 as far back as 2001 and offered to give it to the Fed for free. This is the guy now in charge of the huge database structures backed by $500 billion and Trump. They're supposed to put $500 billion into this new AI system. That's Project Stargate. Let's see what kind of really terrifying views Larry Ellison has about surveillance. Spoiler alert, he likes the idea.
Will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off, it's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. If there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop, a drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. I mean, it's very, very simple. And the new generation of autonomous drones.
Okay. All right. So this is the guy who just financed the Skydance Paramount merger and installed his son as the CEO. According to some reporting, he was going to go in as the CEO. I guess he's got other fish to fry. He decided to install his son as his puppet CEO. That's the guy, man. There's a guy who wants to develop more mRNA vaccines, and a guy who just described a dystopian surveillance state as an awesome thing where drones everyone's being recorded all the time, right? It's great. It's great because then nothing bad can happen because we're always watching. Drones, cameras, all the citizens will be recorded. Everything's recorded. AI is going to make decisions about how to respond. This is his ideal world. And you know what's terrifying? He's building it. He's getting $500 billion to build it. I thought this is what Trump's voters were against. This is why they want you talking about Colbert and South Park, man. because they don't want you talking about this. They want you talking about if Paramount is going to make better Star Trek. They don't want you talking about that this guy just surpassed Mark Zuckerberg to become the world's second richest man. Isn't that funny that nobody talks about him? Nobody talks about this
You
guy?
don't hear much about this guy.
No. All right. So a little bit from this article from Slate. Larry Ellison just quietly became the most powerful man in America. This week has demonstrated that the tech oligarch who's most influenced President Donald Trump's second administration isn't Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, or Mark Andreessen. It's Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, the 80-year-old software tycoon who recently became the second richest man in the world. Skydance is owned by Ellison's son David, who personally met with both Trump and FCC Chair Brendan Carr to get the deal done. The elder Ellison is covering most of the cash to close the Skydance Paramount merger, which will give him significant control over the new company and a chance to carry out, as he detailed in federal filings, a wholesale transformation of CBS in his vision, including broadcasts of complimentary PSAs for Trump administration initiatives. Does that sound to you like a restoration of objective news? Old-time hockey, Walter Cronkite kind of news? When Carr announced the merger approval, he positively affirmed, quote, Skydance's commitment to make significant changes at the once storied CBS broadcast network, including the impending hire of an ombudsman who will monitor CBS News broadcast for bias. And as we just read, it looks like they're eyeing Barry Weiss for that role. As the overall company slashes its diversity, equity, and inclusion guidelines. Said Trump himself of his friend Larry Ellison, I think he's going to run CBS really well, and I think he's making a good deal to buy it. The day before the FCC approved Skydance Paramount, the president hosted a kickoff event at the White House for his AI action plan, a new federal framework for tech regulation or lack thereof. Much of the plan reads like a Christmas gift list for Larry Ellison and Oracle in particular, including overriding environmental protections to construct those Stargate-style AI data center campuses, prioritizing contracts with free speech-focused AI firms like Elon Musk's xAI, in which Ellison and Oracle are both invested, integrating AI infrastructure into the Pentagon, and centralizing the government's massive data sets, a special focus of Oracle's. Further, the Trump administration's plans for undermining China's AI ambitions also involve kowtowing to Ellison by using him to force some American control over TikTok. Trump's big scheme is really for Ellison to wind up buying TikTok on the American side. Ellison joined the Silicon Valley advisor army that descended upon Mar-a-Lago when Trump won re-election, then went on to cheer Musk's Doge rampage and proposed that all national data be put into a singular database that would feed an AI model, a vision that may be in reach thanks to the action plan, whose data concentration goals would build upon Doge's addition of AI to various government functions. Now, just 6 months into Trump's term, Ellison has procured for himself a sweeping empire, ruling over acres worth of AI infrastructure, gaining a mega-sized media arm for himself via Paramount Skydance, potentially winning another powerful media apparatus with TikTok, and seeing his own ideologies and goals reflected by a friendly White House. The Trump 2.0 era has been spectacular for, quote, one rich asshole called Larry Ellison, mostly because he's done so much to shape it. Yeah, man, that's the real story. That's the real story here. that Larry Ellison is really the linchpin of building the new world order that supposedly Trump was elected to put a stop to. Doesn't this sound like Klaus Schwab's acid trip? What's being described here? They're going to put $500 billion into AI, and now you've just put this guy in control of this massive media empire that he's going to use to overtly spread administration propaganda. That's supposed to be, this is why they need anti-woke. It's a cover for the real agenda, and it's the most effective way of getting the people most likely to fight against that agenda neutralized. Right? They're talking about, we're going to get good Star Trek. Meanwhile, they're building a police surveillance state. What if Kamala Harris announced this plan? Oh my God, they'd be taking over state capitals. They'd be fighting the FBI. There'd be riots. There'd literally be riots. Nothing. You're not even hearing about this. I would wager most people don't know Larry Ellison is behind this merger.
Yeah, no, it is why they need the culture war. It's also why they need AI. The more you look into stories like this, the more you see the use of AI to these people, because it takes the human element out, right? The fewer human beings you have to deal with, the easier it is to just implement your vision, right?
Right.
And as wealth consolidates into fewer and fewer hands, there are fewer and fewer people who are going to be willing to implement your vision. The more and more people catch on to the fact that your vision is, paradise for you and hell for everyone else, right? So it's very hard to enlist the masses in that project past a certain point, right? With AI, you don't need to enlist the masses in that project, right? That's all automated. That's all done for you. And yeah, you'll have certain little glitches in the matrix there, like a Hasbara Hal type moment or something like that. But generally, yeah, this is why automation is so necessary for people like Larry Ellison and like Elon for that matter, because past a certain point, you're not going to be able to enlist the masses in your cause anymore. And by the time you get to that point, guess what? You don't need masses. You don't need masses. You have robots. That's it.
Well, that's why I'm saying they're trying
and Barry
to kill...
Weiss.
And Barry Weiss.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I keep saying, and I'm not exaggerating, they're trying to kill us. They realize they don't need as many people. And the greatest threat to their power would be a restive, unemployed population. So you cut down on the population size because you don't need the workers anymore. And then the AI allows you to get around the Achilles heel of all police states, the massive drain on resources it requires to have one. Right. You're not going to have that drain on resources because you don't need people for it.
Right.
It's all automated. None of the police states of the past were able to do that. Right. With this AI, you're able to do that. You don't have that issue that you need to enlist tens of thousands of people into the Cheka in order to make all this work. The AI is your Cheka.
Exactly. All right, let's see here. Where do we got here? Okay, Rumble Rants. The Newspeak Times says recommendation for Jeremy Corbyn block party. Vote on the blockchain with the goal of phasing out politicians. We do not need politicians. Pete Sweet says Israel knows the only way Palestinians would willingly leave is by starvation. Egypt, Jordan will now accept them in using this crisis, and the politicians will all back this. Always the plan. Yes, I agree. Bernie Noble sounds like a New York Mafia nickname. Yes, thank you for that. Damon Wolf says denouncing Israel now is almost worse than remaining loyal. Even the Nazis that threw Hitler onto the bus at Nuremberg still swung by their necks because history judges actions. Free Palestine. Goo says Kit does a really good Obama. Yeah, Kit does a good Obama. I forgot happy birthday to Augie.
I've never heard
Thank
of
you,
doing Obama.
Yeah, he does a good one. Thank you for the birthday wishes for Augie Goo. Appreciate that. I messaged Kit one of his shows. Hope first words is not Mamala. Haha, good one. Check out Kevin Walmsley on YouTube, says Otacon. We won't have the energy infrastructure for decades for Stargate and all these other big AI projects, and China has the market cornered on electric transformers. Thank you, Otacon. Kay Briscoe says they're all fucking Star Trek nerds. I bet that's literally why they all like this dystopian Davos shit. It's the road to real life Star Trek. Well, Star Trek was more of a utopia than a dystopia. Actually, oddly enough.
A lot have argued that Star Trek is Marx's vision of communism,
right?
Where capitalism eventually creates enough prosperity that everybody has enough.
Right, exactly. Cameron says Larry Ellison, huge ideological Zionist, has given lots to the IDF. I'm sure that's true. Captain Vader says, what do you think the American way is, or what do you think it should be? You know, that's a good question. I never really understood that. I mean, I think, people like to think of it as, honesty, integrity, hard work. It's all bullshit. It's all nonsense. So that would be my answer. That would be my answer. What do I think it should be? I think it should be what they say it should be, but it's not. That would be my answer.
I think part of the American myth, part of the cultural ideal, is definitely a certain kind of rugged individualism.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That at times can make collective action difficult to actuate.
Yes, for sure. P. Walker, thanks for the $5. So what you're saying is that Barry Weiss will be David Ellison's toady at CBS News now. Exactly.
Basically, yeah.
Racecar789, thanks for the $20. Appreciate that. Says, I heard Larry Ellison's first database software release was called Oracle version 2 because customers always waited for version 2. No one bought version 1 software back in the 1970s. Interesting. That is very interesting. Thank you for that. All right, folks. Well, hey, that is our show tonight. Thank you all very much for being here. Thanks to Jake in the booth. Got Kit on the brain now because so many people were chatting about him. Thanks to Jake in the booth. Thanks to all the YouTubers and the Rumblers. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. The party will continue. All are welcome to join. Go to dudissidents.com/rumble if you want to come hang out with us for a Q&A after party. So paid subscribers have call-in access. So paid members are welcome to call, but everyone is welcome to watch and chat along only on Rumble. So go to dudissidents.com/rumble. That takes you right to this live stream, this current stream. If you're not sticking around for the Q&A, we will see you all back here on the main show at Tuesday, July 29th, 2 p.m. Eastern. Until we see you again, thank you very much for spending the evening with us. Appreciate you all always. Thanks very much for your support and for your viewership. We will see you in 5 minutes for the Q&A and or Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks again. Be safe. Be well.
Courage!
Please clap.